divine and mysterious immortality. I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 876 Mission accomplished. As Wei Hong slowly stood up, the strange phenomena of heaven and earth outside changed again. The colorful rays of light in the spiritual energy vortex suddenly brightened, and the sound of dragons and phoenixes could be heard. The heavy dark clouds in the air were also slowly dispersed by the colorful rays of light, allowing the earth to be illuminated again. As the sound of dragons and phoenixes rang out, the huge spiritual energy vortex was also expanding rapidly, like a huge smoke ring. During the expansion, countless spiritual energies of heaven and earth also spread to the surroundings, and then slowly returned to calm. After a while, the colorful rays of light had disappeared, the dragons and phoenixes also fell silent, and the lightning and thunder and heavy dark clouds in the air had long since disappeared. The sky was cloudless again, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was settled, as if the strange phenomena of heaven and earth just now had not happened, which was amazing. After the strange phenomena of heaven and earth dissipated, Wei Hong flew up on his sword. Whoosh! A stream of green light suddenly passed by, as fast as lightning. After condensing the heavenly Dao golden pill, Wei Hong's flying speed was at least twice as fast as before. This was also a pleasant surprise for him. Whether it was to chase the enemy or to escape, it would at least be of great use. In a short while, Wei Hong had already flown hundreds of miles away. Haha, comfortable. The speed is indeed much faster. It is indeed not comparable to the 5th grade golden pill. Wei Hong slowly stopped in midair, and then laughed with satisfaction. Since he had already condensed the heavenly Dao golden pill, he naturally wanted to test his strength again. So he chose an area full of hills and prepared to try it out here. The first thing was the spiritual consciousness. Wei Hong directly expanded his spiritual consciousness. Buzz! An invisible wave flashed by, and his spiritual consciousness immediately spread out in all directions. 10 miles. 20 miles. 30 miles. When it was 30 miles away, Wei Hong felt that it was slowly becoming blurred. That is to say, within a range of 30 miles, his spiritual consciousness could clearly detect anything. Such a huge range and strength of spiritual consciousness made Wei Hong overjoyed. Haha, 20 miles? Not bad, not bad. This range is definitely much larger than that of the cultivators of the same level. He had tested it when he first condensed into 5th grade golden elixir. At that time, his spiritual consciousness could only cover a range of 12 or 13 miles. According to notes he had read before, the spiritual consciousness of cultivators who had just broken through to the first level of the golden elixir could often cover a range of about 10 miles. When he was at the 5th grade golden elixir, his spiritual consciousness was only 20% to 30% higher than that of ordinary cultivators. But now it has almost doubled compared to before, reaching a range of 20 miles. This means that Wei Hong's spiritual consciousness strength and coverage range have at least reached twice that of cultivators of the same level. In other words, it has formed an absolute suppression and advantage. Such a huge gain, how could Wei Hong not be extremely happy? Good, good, it's not in vain that I have paid so much. Wei Hong became more and more excited as he thought about it, and he seemed very satisfied with the test results of his spiritual consciousness. In his joy, he then began to test the power of the spell. Buzz! With a thought, a giant, terrifying blade more than 10 feet long instantly condensed in midair. This was a second level, low-grade spell, the Flame Blade. He had used this spell to test its power before. However, the flame blade he condensed now was at least twice as large as before. The flame attached to it was not only darker in color, but also hotter. It seemed that even the air was distorted by the high temperature. Go! Wei Hong waved his hand gently. The next moment, the giant blade more than 10 feet long fell fiercely towards the ground. Boom! A loud and earth-shaking sound instantly sounded on the ground. Thick dust rose up, and the ground shook. The flames burned through, and the 3 connected hills were immediately burned to a charred appearance. When the dust cleared, Wei Hong saw that 2 hills were directly split in half at the same time, and a gully several dozen feet long and 5 or 6 feet deep was left on the ground. Its terrifying power can be seen. Well, it's okay, the power has at least doubled. Wei Hong judged the power of this spell with just one glance. Compared with the previous one, the power of this flame slash has increased by about 2 times. Simply put, a cultivator at the peak of the foundation building stage will die if hit by this blow. This is because he has just condensed the golden elixir and has not yet mastered the spell. At the same time, he has not yet fully adapted to his own strength in the golden elixir stage, otherwise the power of the spell can be further improved. Wei Hong is naturally very satisfied with such power. Ordinary second-level low-grade spells can have such power. If it is replaced by other second-level high-grade or second-level top-grade spells, or even when he practices the spells of the golden elixir stage in the future, its power will definitely be more terrifying. Next, he successively tested the formation, paper figurine technique, and spiritual weapon, etc., and the results were not much different from the previous two. Simply put, the speed of the formation has increased a lot, and the power of the formation has also increased by 2 or 3 times accordingly. There is also the paperman technique. Now that his spiritual consciousness has greatly increased, the range of the paperman's activities has also reached a distance of 200 miles, and the number of papermen he can control has increased to as many as 10. In addition, the power of activating spiritual tools is 2 or 3 times stronger than when he was a 5th grade golden elixir. Such a result made Wei Hong very happy. After a test, he roughly understood his own strength. In general, Wei Hong's current strength is about twice that of the cultivators of the same level. In other words, even if there are 2 or even 3 cultivators of the same level besieging him together, he can remain invincible, and it is even possible to kill them one by one. Haha, good, such strength, worthy of the legendary Heavenly Dao Golden Elixir. Wei Hong laughed and had a more intuitive feeling of the background and changes brought by the Heavenly Dao Golden Elixir. After a careful test, he returned to the island in the middle of the lake. Sitting cross-legged on the golden silk cushion, Wei Hong began to ponder, now that the Heavenly Dao Golden Pill has been completed, I no longer need to break the pill, and the Golden Pill upgrade is complete. Calculating the time, it should be about 40 years before the secret realm is opened again. This period of time is not long or short, and I can't waste it. First, I must use the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here to continue to practice, and I can't waste decades of time. Second, the exploration of the secret realm cannot be left behind, maybe I can find some good things. Finally, the nourishment of the 10,000 souls banner and the refined corpses must also be kept up. Even if those refined corpses cannot be promoted to the golden corpse realm due to material problems, they still have a lot of use. Don't give up. Wei Hong's thoughts turned rapidly in his mind, and he was planning what he needed to do next. Now he no longer needs to break the pill, but can continue to practice with the help of the extremely rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth here. He hopes that when the secret realm is reopened, he can take his own cultivation to a higher level. After arranging all these matters, Wei Hong closed his eyes. Chapter 877 Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. 10 years later. At this time, Wei Hong was walking on a piece of ice. This is the northernmost part of the outer domain of the Xingyun secret realm. There was an environment of ice and snow here. Everything was covered in silver and white. Even the huge lake under his feet was directly frozen into ice. The biting cold wind blew, and it was so cold that it was piercing. I didn't expect that such a cold environment could be derived in this secret realm. It is indeed as dangerous as I deduced when I first entered the secret realm, but now it is not scary anymore. Wei Hong looked at the wide and cold land in front of him and couldn't help but sigh secretly. This place is extremely cold. If he came here when he first entered the secret realm, he would definitely be greatly affected by the cold and fall into danger. However, now he has broken through to the early stage of the golden core, and the mere cold has long been ignored by him. The mana in his body circulated slightly, and all the cold air was blocked outside. After 10 years of familiarity and running in, Wei Hong has already been able to perfectly control his own strength, which is 2 points stronger than when he just condensed the Heavenly Dao Golden Pill. After all, he was not familiar with anything when he first entered the Golden Pill. It's just that he has been staying in the secret realm and has not learned any magic spells of the Golden Pill period. He doesn't have any magic weapons in his hands, so he can't really exert his full strength. But for the monsters in this secret realm, it is a completely irresistible existence. At this moment, within a radius of dozens of miles, not only are there 10 paper figures constantly searching for monsters around, but there are also dozens of ghosts wrapped in rolling yin energy wandering around wantonly, and once they find monsters, they will directly pounce on them. Those ghosts have no physical form, but they are full of yin energy. Even if a monster at the peak of the foundation building is directly surrounded by such a group of ghosts, it has little resistance at all. In this way, Wei Hong walked forward slowly, and the paper figures and ghosts slaughtered various monsters crazily, setting off a bloody storm in this piece of ice and snow. It seems that there are not many natural treasures worth looking at here. Wei Hong shook his head, slightly disappointed, but he didn't care too much. His situation has not changed much in the past 10 years, but the entire Xingqian secret realm seems to have ushered in an unprecedented disaster. Since he condensed the heavenly Dao golden pill, Wei Hong no longer needs to experience the taste of broken pills. So he began to practice hard, wanting to take his realm to a higher level before the secret realm is opened. But the result made Wei Hong quite disappointed, and at the same time a little helpless. Because after he entered the golden pill stage, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the secret realm, which was originally considered to be extremely abundant, was now a little insufficient. Even if he absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within a radius of dozens of miles during his daily practice, it could not really meet the needs of practice. Therefore, his cultivation level was not much better than 10 years ago. In addition, he only had the skills, but no magic and secret techniques for Jianlin stage cultivation, and no elixirs suitable for Jianlin stage cultivators to improve their cultivation. Therefore, it was indeed a bit difficult for him to improve his cultivation to a higher level. Alice, I underestimated the difficulty of cultivation in the Jianlin stage. No wonder most Jianlin cultivators find it difficult to break through to the middle stage in their lifetime. If there are no large amounts of resources, even improving one level of cultivation is very difficult. Wei Hong sighed with regret, his face showing even more helplessness. He did underestimate the difficulty of cultivation after the Jianlin stage, thinking that it would be as simple as the foundation building stage. However, these are two completely different realms. After entering the Jianlin stage, his spiritual power transformed into mana, and his mana was several times stronger than that of ordinary cultivators. Therefore, it would take more time to condense enough mana than other cultivators. In addition, the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth here is already somewhat insufficient. Now Wei Hong is stuck in the same place as most Jianlin stage cultivators and cannot make any progress. Such a result is both helpless and unacceptable. Wei Hong couldn't help thinking in his heart, it seems that after going out, I must find a way to obtain more resources, otherwise even I will be trapped in the early stage of Jianlin and unable to break through. After entering the Jianlin stage, the importance of various resources is completely highlighted. If there are not enough resources, it is very difficult to make further progress. Of course, a Jianlin cultivator can stand anywhere. If he is willing to accept the offerings of some families, or choose to join some big forces, then it is not difficult to obtain the resources he needs. This requires Wei Hong to weigh and choose by himself after leaving the secret realm. At present, this matter does not seem urgent. In addition to daily practice, he has mainly focused on 3 things in the past 10 years. First, explore the secret realm. Wei Hong no longer needs to repeat the broken pill and the formation of the pill, so he has continued to invest part of his time in exploring the secret realm. With the help of the paper man, he has searched the entire secret realm almost carefully, and the area he is in now is left to explore at the end. During this period, Wei Hong harvested a large number of spiritual flowers and herbs, and all of them were above the 2nd grade upper grade. There were also many 2nd grade top grade natural materials and treasures, which could be said to be a great harvest. Second, slaughtering monsters. In the process of exploring the secret realm, Wei Hong also deliberately searched for various monsters that had reached the late stage of foundation building. Whenever he encountered them, all of them were slaughtered by him. The reason for this was mainly for the materials on the monsters, as well as to obtain vitality points and monster fright, which could be said to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Third, cultivating and refining the 10,000 souls banner and refining corpses. Now Wei Hong has no magic weapon in his hand, and has not yet practiced the magic of the golden pill stage, so as the 2 most powerful trump cards in his hand, the 10,000 souls banner and the refining corpse, have received great attention. He not only sacrificed and raised the corpses according to the method of Zuanayan refining corpse technique, but also released a small part of his own blood every once in a while after condensing the heavenly Dao golden pill, and then fed them to the silver corpses. In this way, the strength of the silver corpses was greatly enhanced. The spirits of the monsters he had harvested from hunting monsters were all stored in the 10,000 souls banner. With such intensive cultivation and sacrifice, both the 10,000 souls banner and the silver corpses had been greatly enhanced. Now, every silver corpse he had cultivated had reached the peak of the foundation building stage, and the 10,000 souls banner had been cultivated to the second order top grade level, absorbing a large amount of powerful spirits. Once released, it would definitely have extremely terrifying power. In this way, although Wei Hong's own cultivation level had not improved much, his original trump cards had all been greatly enhanced, and had not become useless because of his breakthrough to the golden core stage. Chapter 878 The Secret Realm opens again. Wei Hong stood with his hands behind his back, walking slowly on the ice. The reason why he didn't fly in the air was mainly because he wanted to experience this kind of icy and snowy environment. Half an hour later, he shook his head and said, "Almost done. The entire secret realm has been explored, and there is nothing here that catches my eye." Under the joint search of dozens of ghosts and 10 paper figures, this area was quickly explored. However, there was nothing very valuable, only some ice-attributed monsters and some medicinal herbs. Wei Hong didn't care. After recalling the ghosts and paper figures, he immediately returned to the depths of the inner realm. After returning to the island in the middle of the lake, he began to ponder inwardly. Now the entire secret realm has been explored, and most of the monsters have been killed. Now there is no need to go out to search for anything. Now my cultivation is growing slowly, but I still have to keep practicing. Calculating the time, the secret realm will be reopened in about 30 years, and I don't know what the situation outside is like. Wei Hong's mind was wandering. 60 years had passed since he went out again. He didn't know what changes had taken place in Kangshan Immortal City, and he didn't know whether the Blood Spirit sect had already started an attack. However, these things had nothing to do with him for the time being, so he didn't think about it too much. Instead, he entered the state of cultivation again, waiting for the time when the secret realm would open. 30 years later, the Zingyan secret realm was reopened. Wei Hong had already calculated the time in advance, and was hiding in the dark at this time. He only felt that the secret realm suddenly trembled, and an indescribable invisible wave flashed by. The entire secret realm seemed to have a hint of inexplicable changes, and then he sensed that white light suddenly appeared in the secret realm out of thin air and scattered to every corner. Haha, secret realm, the legendary treasure land, here I come. Secret realm, I hope I can collect enough natural treasures this time. Haha, no one can compete with me, they're all mine. Let's go, let's search in the direction of the inner realm. I heard that a divine object appeared in the depths of the inner realm last time. Ah, such a rare object appeared? Come on, let's go. Most of the hundreds of foundation building monks who fell into the secret realm were extremely excited at this time, as if they had seen the scene of their own harvest, so they immediately searched in all directions. Among these hundreds of foundation building monks, there are many who act alone. Of course, there are more who form teams of 3 or 2, after all, many monks knew each other before entering the secret realm. In this way, hundreds of streams of light were directly scattered throughout the secret realm. Wei Hong swept his consciousness and locked onto 3 of the late-stage foundation building monks who looked a bit ferocious. These 3 late foundation building cultivators were all tall and strong, and their faces looked quite similar. Wei Hong listened carefully and found that they were indeed 3 brothers. Tisk, they are actually 3 brothers, and they can all cultivate to the late foundation building stage. It's really rare. Wei Hong was amazed and followed the 3 people slowly. Brothers are not uncommon in the world of immortal cultivation, but there are really not many 3 brothers. Moreover, these 3 people have cultivated to the late foundation building stage. If they don't have a good background, they must have had different adventures. Otherwise, it is impossible for the 3 brothers to reach such a level at the same time. Or maybe, they are doing things like burning, killing and looting. Wei Hong couldn't help but secretly have another guess in his mind. If it is really as he expected, these 3 brothers are doing things like robbery, then it is not surprising that they can cultivate to such a level. After all, burning, killing and looting are easy to obtain resources. Let's see first, no rush. Wei Hong suppressed his thoughts and followed the 3 brothers slowly. With his current cultivation level, the 3 foundation building monks could not detect his presence at all. However, the 3 brothers' words and actions were all exposed under Wei Hong's eyes, and there was simply no escape. The three monks were now flying towards the inner domain along the east, as if they wanted to go straight to the inner domain. "Brother, I heard that there are many powerful monsters in the depths of the inner domain. We don't need to go directly to the inner domain. Why don't we search around in the outer domain first?" At this time, the monk flying on the right suddenly made a suggestion. The monk on the left also nodded and agreed. "Yes, brother, what the third brother said is right. The inner domain is really dangerous. Why don't we wait a little longer? Maybe we can get what we want from others." When Wei Hong heard the two talking, he knew that the man on the left should be the second brother, and the man on the right was the third brother. As for who the eldest brother was, it was self-evident. And when he heard the second brother's words, Wei Hong's eyes flashed with coldness, and he knew that his previous guess was indeed correct. These three brothers were definitely not good birds. At this time, the eldest brother in the middle shook his head and said, "Second brother, third brother, I know what you are thinking, but I heard that when the secret realm was opened last time, a legendary magical object that can improve the quality of the golden elixir appeared in the depths of the inner domain, so I want to go to the inner domain first to see if there is any harvest. If we find such a magical object, even if we don't use it ourselves, we can get unimaginable huge resources by trading it. By then, you three brothers may have the resources to advance to the golden elixir. As for the danger, the three of us brothers are enough to kill the monsters at the peak of the foundation building when we join forces. What's the harm in taking a risk?" As soon as these words came out, the second and third brothers on the left and right sides were immediately moved. The eldest brother, is still thoughtful. "Why didn't I think of it?" The third brother scratched his head and laughed. The second brother immediately agreed, "Haha, the eldest brother is the eldest brother. In this case, it is indeed right for us to take some risks. If we can really harvest such a magical object, the day when the three of us brothers form the elixir will be just around the corner, haha." Thinking of the excitement, the second brother couldn't help laughing out loud. As for the eldest brother in the middle, he was also very proud, as if he was very proud of his idea. Wei Hong, who was following behind, couldn't help but laugh secretly. "You are really ignorant. Even if there is another pure spirit green lotus, how can you get your hands on it?" "But has the news of the appearance of the divine object in the depths of the inner domain spread?" "I didn't expect that." Wei Hong didn't expect that the news of the appearance of the pure spirit green lotus had spread. His first reaction was to be a little worried, but he immediately thought that the pure spirit green lotus had been swallowed by him, and he had already become a giant stage cultivator, so there was no need to worry too much. "Haha, I almost forgot that I am already a giant stage cultivator. Even if others know that the pure spirit green lotus is in my hands, who dares to take action?" Wei Hong shook his head and laughed, and his worries just now completely dissipated. So he slowly followed behind the three brothers, without any intention of being anxious. Chapter 879, The Three Evils of Guan Family. The three brothers were also known as the Guan clan's three evils. The eldest was named Guan Yuan, and the second and third were named Guan Yuanren and Guan Yuanai. In the outside world, the Guan clan's three evils were good at burning, killing and looting. They specifically targeted those cultivators with a weaker cultivation than them to rob, and usually killed them to silence them. Moreover, the Guan clan's three evils often acted together, and they were not afraid even if they encountered cultivators at the peak of the foundation building stage. The Guan clan's three evils would never dare to provoke those with higher cultivation levels than them. As a result, the three brothers had a reputation for being fierce, so they were called the Guan clan's three evils, but they had never provoked a very strong existence, so they were not purged. No one knew how they entered the secret realm this time, and Wei Hong did not know their true identities. The Guan clan's three evils flew all the way to the east, not knowing that someone was slowly hanging them more than 10 miles behind them. According to the idea of the eldest brother Guan Yuan before, the three of them were ready to go directly to the inner realm. At this time, the three of them had already flown hundreds of miles to the east, and during the flight, they would occasionally release their spiritual sense to search. However, they did not gain anything along the way. At this time, the third brother Guan Yuanai suddenly said with a puzzled look on his face, "Brother, this seems a little wrong." "Huh? What's wrong?" The eldest brother Guan Yuan did not react at once. The second brother seemed to understand something at this time, and frowned and said, "Brother, something seems to be wrong." Hearing the second and third brothers say this, the eldest brother Guan Yuan's face became solemn, and he immediately asked, "What exactly do you mean by wrong?" The third brother Guan Yuanai immediately explained, "Brother, don't get me wrong, there was no accident, but we have been searching all the way here, but we didn't find any spiritual flowers and herbs worthy of our attention. It doesn't seem to be what the outside world has rumored. This secret realm doesn't seem like a secret realm." "Yes, brother, I also found out. We have flown at least hundreds of miles, but we didn't find anything. Except for some second-level middle and low-grade herbs, it can be said that there is nothing. This does not conform to the situation of the secret realm. Aren't they said that the secret realm is full of treasures? This doesn't seem to be the case. That's why we think something is wrong." The second brother Guan Yuanren immediately agreed and explained the reason. As a result, the eldest brother Guan Yuan finally understood, and immediately frowned and said in a deep voice, "Now that you said that, I realized that something is wrong. There is nothing in this secret realm." After reacting, the three evil men of the Guan family looked at each other in bewilderment. Who would have thought that this legendary secret realm full of treasures was not like that? After entering, they found that there was not even a second-level top-grade spiritual herb. It was simply unbelievable. At this moment, in the entire secret realm, not only the three evil men of the Guan family had noticed it, but the other hundreds of foundation-building cultivators were also confused. What's going on? Why are there no treasures? What's going on? Forget treasures. We haven't even seen a demon beast. Damn it, this is not right. Is this really a secret realm? The more I look at it, the less it looks like it. Did we go into the wrong place? Where are the spiritual flowers and herbs? Where are the natural treasures? Where are they? They can't all be invisible, right? Hundreds of foundation-building cultivators scattered throughout the secret realm were all confused and puzzled. They had no idea what had happened, and they didn't know whether what they saw was true. Most of the cultivators had no gains, and they hadn't even encountered a demon beast. This situation was beyond everyone's expectations. They had no idea why the secret realm had become like this. No one knew the real reason, and they could only fall into deep thought facing the extremely barren secret realm. As the initiator of all this, Wei Hong continued to follow the three evil men of the Guan family leisurely. He was not in a hurry to show up, and was ready to see the specific situation first. He was naturally clear about the situation in the secret realm. When they couldn't find the natural treasures, robbing each other became the norm. Wei Hong wanted to see if the three brothers in front would make a move. Sure enough, after flying forward for dozens of miles, the three evil Guans encountered two monks who were traveling together. One of the two monks was in the late foundation building stage, and the other was in the middle foundation building stage. After seeing the figures of the two monks on the opposite side, the three evil Guan's eyes suddenly lit up. When they noticed the cultivation level of the two monks on the opposite side, they didn't even need to say a word, and they accelerated to meet them tacitly. And in the process of approaching quickly, the three evil Guans immediately dispersed and gathered in a surrounding momentum, and they were actually planning to rob the other party directly. The two young men on the opposite side were still a little confused, but they were shocked when they saw the actions of the three evil Guans. The monk in the late foundation building stage pulled his companion over and immediately turned the sword like to escape from here. "Haha, wait a minute, fellow Taoist, we three brothers want to borrow something from you two." "Yes, fellow Taoist, don't leave in a hurry. Two fellow Taoists, please stay, we have something to discuss." Seeing the other party running away, the three evil Guans immediately tried to dissuade them. But with such a blatant action, who knows what they want to do? It would have been better if they didn't say anything, because after they spoke, the two cultivators ran faster. But the three evil Guans were all cultivators in the late stage of foundation building, so their speed was naturally faster. After a while, the two fleeing cultivators were successfully surrounded by the three evil Guans. "What do you mean, three fellow Taoists? The two of us are from the Su family of Huang's Hao. Is there any misunderstanding between us?" Seeing that the three of them had formed a siege, the cultivator in the late stage of foundation building, who was trapped in the middle, immediately shouted coldly. As for the cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building, he stared at the three people around him nervously. The three evil men of Guan clan slowly gathered around them, and Guan Yuan immediately laughed and said, "Haha, it turns out to be the two Taoists Su. Taoists Su, please don't blame us, but the three of us brothers are a little tight on money recently, so we want to borrow some spirit stones from the two Taoists. Will the two Taoists not give us face?" As they spoke, the three evil men of Guan clan slowly approached with an aggressive aura. The so-called wanting to borrow spirit stones is naturally just an excuse to rob the other party. The late-stage foundation building cultivator opposite also knew this very well. His face froze, and after thinking for a while, he immediately replied, "Since the three Daoists are asking for money, Su has no reason to refuse, but the savings of the two of us are not much, and we can only borrow 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones from the Daoists at most." Since the other party was obviously going to rob them, and the two of them could not stop it, they might as well spend money to avoid disaster, so the late-stage foundation building cultivator was ready to give 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones with great pain. Chapter 880, Overwhelming. 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones? Are you sending away beggars? Hearing the other party say this, the second brother Guan Yuanren immediately laughed coldly. The third brother Guan Yuanai shouted even more unceremoniously, "Don't talk nonsense. If you know what's good for you, hand over all the storage bags, otherwise we will do it ourselves." 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones could not satisfy the appetite of the three brothers at all, and the true colors of the three evil Guans were truly revealed at this time. The eldest brother Guan Yuan was too lazy to continue acting, and he said with a gloomy face, "Two Taoist friends, you'd better hand over the storage bags obediently. If we brothers do it, it will be very serious." The threat was extremely obvious. The two cultivators trapped in the middle suddenly turned pale, but their faces were full of helplessness and indignation. The three evil Guans did not hide their cultivation in the late stage of foundation building, which naturally made the two cultivators unable to resist. If they really started fighting, the two of them would definitely not be the opponents of the three robber cultivators in front of them. Especially the young man in the middle stage of foundation building, his face was pale. So under the pressure of the three evil men of Guan family, the two Su family cultivators could only prepare to hand over the storage bag helplessly. But at this moment, a light laugh suddenly sounded in the ears of the five people. "Haha, there's such a good thing? I am a little tight on money recently. Why don't you ask these three Taoist friends to lend me the storage bag? What do you think?" This laughter seemed very ethereal, making it impossible to sense the real location of the speaker at all, as if it came from a very far distance, but it could be clearly heard by everyone. As soon as these words came out, the three evil men of Guan family suddenly changed their faces. Who is talking? Which Taoist friend is playing such a joke on the three of us brothers? Who is talking? Come out. Hearing the jokey laughter, the three evil men of Guan family immediately looked around angrily. They didn't expect that when they were about to rob a group of people, someone would appear to disrupt the situation. Therefore, the three evil Guans were subconsciously full of murderous intent towards this sudden troublemaker. Wei Hong was naturally the first to notice the change in the aura of the three evil Guans. The next moment, a plain sword light pierced the three evil Guans from behind. "How dare you? Who is it? Rat, you are looking for death." Seeing that the other party did not show up but attacked directly, the three evil Guans changed their faces and scolded. Moreover, they did not seem to feel any threat from the sword light, so the third brother Guan Yuanai directly sacrificed his flying knife with murderous intent. Whoosh! A black flying knife went straight towards the sword light. Seeing this, the eldest brother Guan Yuan and the second brother Guan Yuanren did not follow suit, and seemed to trust their brothers. But what happened in the next moment made them open their eyes wide instantly, as if they felt extremely incredible. Snap! The sword light passed lightly, and the second-grade high-quality flying knife was directly cut in half. The third brother Guan Yuanai's expression changed drastically, as if he couldn't believe what he saw. His two brothers felt an indescribable chill at this moment, making them feel like they were falling into an ice cave. "Not good, third brother, hurry up." The eldest brother Guan Yuan had already seen that something was wrong, and his intuition made him subconsciously want to escape from this place. Hearing their eldest brothers shout, the second and third brothers also changed their expressions. But before they could make a move, the sword light had already arrived in front of them at an extremely fast speed. Swish! A flying sword of a very ordinary style appeared in the eyes of Guan Yuan and the other two, and the speed of the flying sword was extremely amazing. It stabbed at the three of them at the same time, making them completely unable to react. The next moment, three terrifying screams suddenly rang out. "Ah!" The three evil Guans screamed miserably, and then their faces all turned extremely pale, without a trace of blood, and they all made an identical move at this time, that is, looking down at their lower abdomen with a dull face. A blood hole 2 fingers long and half a finger wide suddenly appeared at their dantian. A trickle of blood was slowly flowing out of the dantian and then dripping to the ground. The blood hole was not big, but the damage caused was unbearable for every cultivator. At this moment, the 3 evil ones felt that their cultivation, as well as their spiritual power, were all slowly disappearing with the damage to their dantian. The feeling of emptiness in their bodies was simply crazy. At the same time, the 3 of them also felt dizzy and weak. This is impossible. How could this happen? Our dantian is broken. The 3 evil ones were not only pale and bloodless, but also full of confusion and disbelief. Even now, they couldn't believe that their dantian was directly broken in just a moment of face-to-face. The 3 evil ones knew very well what it meant to have their dantian broken. At this moment, they only felt that they were almost the same as death. Moreover, after their dantian was broken, the spiritual power of the 3 Guan clan evildoers had been completely lost, so they could no longer fly with their swords, and now they all fell to the ground fiercely. The 3 Guan clan evildoers were frightened by the sudden weightlessness and screamed again. If no one came to their aid, they would only have one result, that is, they would be smashed into meat patties, and they would definitely die. The 2 Su clan monks who were originally planning to spend money to avoid a disaster were stunned at this time. They didn't expect such a change to happen. They originally thought that they had no way to escape this time, and at the very least they would be robbed of everything, but who knew that in the blink of an eye, the 3 fierce robbers were directly hit hard by a mysterious monk and no longer posed any threat to them. Such a sudden change made the 2 Su clan monks stunned. The 2 of them stood there and didn't dare to move at all, fearing that the mysterious monk would notice them. The 2 of them naturally did not dare to attack the 3 evil guans who were about to fall to the ground. At this moment, the flying sword that severely injured the 3 evil guans flew downwards, emitting a sword light, and then the sword light carried the 3 evil guans directly in the direction of the attack. Only the 2 Su monks were left at the scene, standing there in a daze, not knowing what to do. What on earth is going on? What should we do now? The 2 Su monks stared at each other in a daze, not knowing whether to leave or stay. The 2 Su monks were extremely shocked and admired a mysterious monk who could severely injure 3 late-stage foundation-building monks with just a flying sword without showing up. They did not know that for Wei Hong, this was just a casual attack. After a while, the 2 Su monks who woke up immediately left the place as if they had been pardoned. Chapter 881, Forced Confession, Intelligence. The 3 evil men of Guan clan were terrified at this moment, looking at the young man in front of them as if they were looking at a demon. They were tied up and thrown on the ground, looking like a broken sack, but the 3 brothers could not remember how they had offended this man. Now not only their dantian was broken, their cultivation was completely destroyed, but they were also taken to a very hidden place by the other party, which made the 3 evil men of Guan clan feel extremely uneasy. They didn't know what the other party wanted to do, but they only knew that their lives were in the hands of others. At this time, Guan Yuan, the leader of the 3 evil men of Guan clan, couldn't help but tremble and asked, "This, fellow Taoist, I don't know what grudges we have. If the 3 of us brothers have offended you, I hope you will be generous and forgive us this time. Since their lives are in the hands of others, there is no dignity at this time. They should beg for mercy when they should, and the most important thing is to save their lives first." It must be said that the leader of the 3 evil men of Guan clan is indeed a smart person. The other 2 elders also nodded their heads like crazy, their eyes full of pleading. Although the 3 evil men of Guan family didn't know why the other party would directly attack and severely injure them, they had no right to ask questions now. They could only think of ways to save their lives first, and nothing else mattered. Wei Hong stood with his hands behind his back, looking down at the 3 people on the ground. Hearing this, he just said lightly, "This is the first time I have met the 3 Taoist friends, and there is no grudge between us." "What, no grudge?" The 3 evil men of Guan family were numbed when they heard this. They all felt extremely unbelievable and couldn't help looking at each other. Since there was no grudge, they were directly turned into cripples with one move. Such a thing is really incredible, and no one would believe it if they were told. However, Wei Hong directly pointed it out in one sentence, "I see that the 3 Taoist friends have a lot of evil spirits, and they have stained many lives on their hands, right? Since you can do it, why can't I do it?" After this, the 3 evil men of Guan family changed their faces suddenly. They didn't expect that this person could see through their identities as robbery cultivators just by the evil spirits on them. Since the other party dared to say so, he must be very sure. Even if they tried to make excuses, they couldn't make him believe it. In this way, the three evil guans no longer had any luck in their hearts, so their faces turned ashen, and their spirits were completely withered. Wei Hong didn't bother to care about what the three evil guans thought. He naturally had no mercy on the robber cultivators who had done so many evil things. After severely injuring the three people, he took them back to his newly opened cave. This cave was not on the inner domain, but Wei Hong found a secret place in the outer domain to open it. As for the retreat place on the small island in the middle of the lake in the inner domain, as well as the areas for offering sacrifices, cultivating and refining corpses, he completely abandoned them when the secret realm was opened, and all traces were cleared away to avoid being discovered by those foundation-building cultivators. As for the newly opened cave, it was naturally impossible for a mere foundation-building cultivator to find it. Wei Hong completely ignored the deadpan expressions of the three Guan clan villains and asked directly, "Now I ask your answer. I only give you one chance. I hope you can cherish it. Dao, if we answer truthfully, will you agree to let us live?" The eldest brother Guan Yuan asked hurriedly as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. Wei Hong smiled coldly and said, "That depends on your performance." He neither agreed nor refused directly. In this way, the three Guan clan villains seemed to have grasped a glimmer of hope. Their eyes brightened, and they all looked at Wei Hong with hope. But Wei Hong suddenly waved his hand and knocked out the second and third of the three Guan clan villains. Dao, what do you mean?" Guan Yuan was shocked, thinking that the other party wanted to regret it. But Wei Hong said calmly, "Don't worry, they just fainted. I will question you three brothers separately. If there is any discrepancy, you can only pray for the best." After hearing this, Guan Yuan was relieved at first, but then became nervous again. He didn't expect the other party to be so experienced. As a result, Guan Yuan had to be very careful. Wei Hong asked, "Let's talk about the major events that have happened in Kangshan Immortal City in the past few decades. Let's not talk about those trivial things. Pick out the important ones." He has lived in the secret realm for 60 years and knows nothing about what is happening outside. Now, of course, he has to take advantage of the time when the secret realm is open to find someone to clarify what has happened in the outside world in the past few decades. This will also allow him to have a clear understanding of the current situation in the world of immortal cultivation. Hearing this question, Guan Yuan was stunned for a moment, then subconsciously looked up with a look of surprise and asked, "What major events have happened in Kangshan Immortal City in the past few decades? Isn't Taoist friend from Kangshan Immortal City? Now I'm asking you and your answer, not asking you to ask me. If there is a next time, Taoist friend will have no need to stay in this world." Wei Hong's voice was cold, which made Guan Yuan shiver. Yes, I'm the one who said too much." Guan Yuan hurriedly suppressed the thoughts in his mind, nodded to show that he understood, and immediately replied, "To be honest, some major events have happened in Kangshan Immortal City in the past few decades. The first one happened 60 years ago, when the secret realm had just ended. It is said that 2 giant seeds of the Huangfu family died in this secret realm. Then the giant ancestor of the Huangfu family went crazy on the spot and broke into the teleportation hall to find his enemy at the cost of offending the city lord. It is said that their Huangfu family has a blood curse. Any cultivator who kills a member of the Huangfu family will definitely have this curse, so the ancestor of the Huangfu family wanted to find the enemy on the spot." Hearing this, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel fortunate for his choice to stay in the secret realm, so he immediately asked, "Oh? There is such a thing? Has the ancestor of the Huangfu family been found?" Guan Yuan immediately shook his head and said, "No, it is said that he used his spiritual sense to scan carefully several times but did not find any trace of the enemy. In the end, it was the deputy city lord who gave the order to reluctantly stop, otherwise it would be hard to say how big a mess it would have caused." Although Guan Yuan was not present at the time, he was still very clear about this matter. Because this matter was widely circulated, it was spread all over Kangshan Immortal City, and people mentioned it from time to time for decades, which made the Huangfu family lose face. The 2 golden elixir seeds fell in the secret realm, but the murderer disappeared. This made the Huangfu family's golden elixir ancestor furious, and also put the Huangfu family into a situation of lack of successors, and there were countless people eyeing it. In this way, this matter was naturally regarded as a major event in Kangshan Immortal City. Chapter 882 The Battle of Nascent Soul. It would be strange if we could find him. Wei Hong sneered in his heart, but his face showed no sign of it. He, the real murderer who killed Huang Fuyun and Huang Fuming, had been staying in the secret realm. It was naturally impossible for the Huangfu family's giant ancestor to find the real murderer. However, Wei Hong was also a little gloating about this matter, and he wished that the Huangfu family would be divided up and eaten by others immediately. Thinking of this, he asked directly, "I heard that the Huangfu family's giant ancestor has not much time left. I wonder if it is true or not." Guan Yuan shook his head and said, "I have heard such a rumor, but how can we, the little people, know whether it is true or not?" Wei Hong didn't care, waved his hand and said, "Okay, continue." Guan Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, and then continued to answer, "This second thing is a real big thing, and there is no other. It can be said to be the most important event that has happened in Kangshan Xiancheng in the past few decades." "What is the most important event?" Wei Hong couldn't help but become curious. Guan Yuan seemed to have a flash of fear in his eyes, and then he said with a trembling voice, "It's the war between Kangshan Immortal City and Blood Spirit Sect." This matter seemed to make Guan Yuan feel scared even when he talked about it. When Wei Hong heard this, he immediately exclaimed, "What? A war has broken out between Kangshan Immortal City and Blood Spirit Sect?" This news seemed to be within his expectations, but it still surprised him. Guan Yuan looked at Wei Hong in surprise, as if wondering why he didn't know such a major event in the world of immortal cultivation, but he didn't dare to ask more, so he could only explain, "Yes, there was indeed a war between Kangshan Immortal City and Blood Spirit Sect, and the outcome of the war was also very tragic." Wei Hong immediately urged, "Quick, tell me in detail." "Yes." Guan Yuan's face brightened, and he immediately continued, 50 years ago, that is, 10 years after the end of the secret realm, the confrontation between Kangshan Immortal City and Blood Spirit Sect finally ended, and the war broke out completely. The cause of the war was the sneak attack of the Blood Spirit Sect. It is said that this was because Kangshan Immortal City sent 3 giant cultivators at the same time to escort a batch of extremely important supplies, but they encountered an ambush and sneak attack by the Blood Spirit Sect, and suffered considerable losses. That sneak attack not only caused the loss of 2 giant cultivators from Kangshan Immortal City, with only one person being seriously injured and escaping, but also a large number of important supplies were lost. After launching the sneak attack, the Blood Spirit Sect did not stop its actions, but simultaneously issued a secret signal, colluding with the spies inside and outside the Immortal City, and directly opened the city defense formation, and then broke into the Immortal City. When the Immortal City reacted, it was too late. The evil people of the Blood Spirit Sect were slaughtering monks in the Immortal City. At that time, the massacre of the Blood Spirit Sect directly caused great panic in the Immortal City, causing countless monks to flee in panic, fearing that they would be buried in the Immortal City if they were one step slower. At this point, Guan Yuan temporarily slowed down, as if the panic of that day still remained in his heart, and he couldn't help but feel scared every time he thought about it. If the 3 brothers hadn't run fast when they saw the situation was not good, they might have been completely left in the Immortal City. After a pause, Guan Yuan continued, "Fortunately, the reaction of the Immortal City was not slow at that time. The City Lord and the 3 deputy City Lords all organized people to counterattack at the first time. And the giant and stage priests of Kangshan Immortal City also joined the battle. The war had not started for long, and both sides had already suffered heavy casualties." Hearing this, Wei Hong immediately asked, "Where is True Man Kangshan?" It is impossible for True Man Kangshan to not show up for such a big event. If Kangshan Immortal City is destroyed, the foundation he has built for hundreds of years will be gone. Of course he can't not show up. Guan Yuan shook his head, and then replied, "True Man Kangshan was also ready to take action to destroy the enemy at the first time, but the Blood Spirit Sect had long been prepared. They actually dispatched 2 early nascent soul cultivators at the same time, and then besieged True Man Kangshan together." 2 early nascent soul cultivators? The Blood Spirit Sect is really willing to invest. Wei Hong was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that the Blood Spirit Sect had such a deep foundation. Guan Yuan also echoed, "That's right, no one expected that the Blood Spirit Sect would have such a deep foundation." Although Kangshan's Henren is a cultivator at the peak of the middle stage of the nascent soul, facing the siege of 2 early stage nascent soul cultivators, he could only be temporarily restrained and could not further influence the battle situation. When Kangshan's Henren was dragged down, the Blood Spirit Sect actually gained the upper hand at that time. Wei Hong did not expect that the blood spirit sect could really throw Kangshan Xiancheng, so he asked again, what about the giant and cultivators from the major families in the Xiancheng? Kangshan Xiancheng is very large, and there are many immortal cultivation families stationed there, and there are also many giant and stage cultivators, but these giant and stage cultivators do not belong to the Xiancheng. If these giant and stage cultivators also contribute, it should not be difficult to suppress the blood spirit sect. The only thing to worry about is that those giant and stage cultivators choose to protect themselves and fall into the sidelines. Sure enough, Guan Yuan showed a hint of contempt in his eyes, and then replied, the giant and cultivators from the major families, as well as some giant and casual cultivators, did not join the war at all after it broke out, but chose to protect themselves and left the fairy city with their people. Haha, it seems that they are not stupid. Wei Hong smiled faintly. Whether it is Kangshan Fairy City or Zuling Sect, they are both huge monsters for those immortal cultivation families. In the war between the two giants, ordinary people naturally dare not intervene, so it is foreseeable that those giant and cultivators choose to protect themselves. In this way, Kangshan Fairy City will not get much help. Zuling Sect should have anticipated this situation, so they dared to act brazenly. What happened next? Later, the Blood Spirit Sect was clearly well prepared, and they had all kinds of backup plans. They beat Kangshan Immortal City to retreat step by step, and there were also huge casualties. Even several giant and stage priests were killed one after another. But Kangshan Immortal City was still at a disadvantage under the city lord's strenuous resistance. If it weren't for Kangshan Immortal's final efforts to turn the tide, I'm afraid Kangshan Immortal City would have really fallen into the hands of the Blood Spirit Sect. Guan Yuan said this with a sigh and admiration on his face. Wei Hong immediately asked curiously, you said that Kangshan Immortal turned the tide? What did he do? Guan Yuan first brooded for a while, and then answered, it is said that Kangshan Immortal used the disparate secret technique at the time, first beheaded a blood spirit sex Yuanying early stage cultivator, and then severely injured another one. After scaring away the surviving Yuanying early stage cultivator, Kangshan Immortal immediately took action to clean up the battlefield, and only then was he able to barely repel the blood spirit sect and save Kangshan Immortal City. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 883 The Current Situation of the Immortal City. Desperate Secret Technique. One of the blood spirit sects Yuanying early stage true person died and another was seriously injured. The blood spirit sect was finally successfully repelled, and the plan failed. Wei Hong was shocked. He didn't expect that the battle outside would be so tragic. Although Guan Yuan didn't say it in detail, just from the result, it can be guessed that the battle between Kangshan Immortal City and the Blood Spirit Sect was definitely beyond the expectations of countless people. First, the result was extremely tragic, and second, there must have been many unknown changes and circumstances, which led to the deviation of the Blood Spirit Sect's original study plan. Although Wei Hong was not at the scene, he could fully imagine the various dangers and changes. If he was in that meat-mincing battlefield, he might be minced into bloody and fleshy pieces if he was not careful. It can be said that if it weren't for Kangshan True Person's final disparate life, the Blood Spirit Sect might really succeed, and then Kangshan Immortal City would be completely changed. It seems that the power of the Yuanying is indeed terrifying. Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh. Who said it wasn't? Guan Yuan first looked at Wei Hong's face carefully, and then agreed, if it weren't for Kangshan Henren's efforts to turn the tide at the last moment, Kangshan Immortal City might have been completely captured by the Blood Spirit Sect. Guan Yuan was even more confused at this time. He kept wondering why Wei Hong didn't know anything about such a big thing. But Wei Hong didn't mean to explain at all, but continued to ask, what happened later? After the Blood Spirit Sect was repelled, what happened to Kangshan Immortal City? Although Kangshan Immortal City repelled the Blood Spirit Sect, the price it paid must have been high, so he was also a little curious about this matter and wanted to know what happened to Kangshan Immortal City. Guan Yuan immediately put away his thoughts and replied in a deep voice, that battle was extremely tragic. Both Kangshan Immortal City and the Blood Spirit Sect paid a very heavy price, and both sides suffered countless casualties. Among them, the Blood Spirit Sect lost a real person in the early nascent soul stage, and another escaped seriously injured. It is said that more than a dozen Jinden stage cultivators were also killed or injured, and the number of cultivators in the Foundation establishment stage and the hidden agents deployed in the city was even greater. The casualties on the Kangshan Immortal City side were also extremely serious. Since it was the Blood Spirit sect that launched a sneak attack first, they had the upper hand, so Kangshan Immortal City lost 13 Jinden cultivators when they were forced to meet the enemy. There were also countless casualties and injuries to cultivators below the Jinden stage. The losses were extremely huge. Guan Yuan told the news he had heard one by one, and the degree of tragedy could be reflected in the numbers alone. Wei Hong was also shocked and gasped. He did not expect such a tragic battle to happen. There were as many as 20 to 30 Jinden stage cultivators killed or injured on both sides. It was simply horrifying. If he had not broken through to the Jinden stage, he might have been killed by the aftermath of the Battle of the Jinden cultivators. Such an extremely tragic result made him feel frightened. It was no wonder the cultivators below the Jinden stage would have suffered countless casualties. As long as they had not broken through to the Jinden stage, anyone who entered such a horrible battlefield would die. At this time, Wei Hong suddenly remembered something and immediately asked, "How many Jinden cultivators are there in Kangshan Xiancheng?" Now that 13 Jinden cultivators were killed in a battle in Kangshan Xiancheng, doesn't that mean that there are only a few Jinden cultivators left? As expected, Guan Yuan immediately replied, "It is said that there are a total of 18 Jinden cultivators, 9 of whom are direct disciples of Kangshan's Henren, and the remaining 9 are worship elders. It's just that when the war broke out, 2 of Kangshan's Henren's disciples had not returned yet, so there are only 3 Jinden cultivators left in the Immortal City at this time. Plus the 2 who have not returned yet, there are only 5 Jinden cultivators left." Guan Yuan's answer made Wei Hong's heart suddenly awe-inspiring, and at the same time he secretly thought it was indeed true. Even 4 of Kangshan's Henren's disciples died in the battle. Wei Hong's face also became heavy. He didn't expect it to be so tragic. From this point of view, the power of Kangshan's Henren's faction has obviously been greatly weakened. 4 direct disciples died in the battle alone, and all the Jinden worship elders recruited by Kangshan's Henren also died in the battle. Such a huge loss is impossible to recover without hundreds of years or even thousands of years. In this way, the huge foundation of Kangshan Xiancheng is somewhat precarious. Moreover, Kangshan's Henren used the desperate secret technique, so it is definitely impossible to be unscathed. Thinking of this, he frowned and asked, "What about Kangshan Master? Has he appeared after the war?" If, as he expected, Kangshan Master did not appear after the war, then the situation in Kangshan Immortal City might be more serious than he imagined, and he would have to consider whether to stay in the Immortal City after he got out. Guan Yuan thought about it and answered, "It seems that Kangshan Master has never appeared after the war. It is said that he was seriously injured at that time. Afterwards, there were rumors that he did not have much time left and his injuries had not healed for a long time. I don't know whether it is true or not." Guan Yuan was just a foundation-building cultivator. The source of the news came from rumors. Naturally, he could not know the truth of these news, so he could only answer whatever he heard. As soon as these words came out, Wei Hong's face immediately flashed a hint of understanding. Sure enough, even if the Blood Spirit sect is repelled, Kangshan's Henren will not be able to avoid paying a price. In this case, the rumor that Kangshan's Henren has a short lifespan should be true. It seems that the situation in Kangshan Xiancheng is far more serious than I thought. Wei Hong narrowed his eyes slightly, and he began to guess secretly in his heart. Now it seems that the situation in Xiancheng is also very bleak. But he must return to Xiancheng after leaving the secret realm, and this cannot be changed. Now he can only consider whether to go or stay after returning to Xiancheng. If he chooses to stay in Xiancheng, as long as he shows his cultivation of the early stage of Jinden, he will definitely be reused by Kangshan's Henren. After all, there are only a few Jinden cultivators left in the entire Kangshan Xiancheng, and it is completely in a state of lack of successors. Once Kangshan's Henren passes away and does not cultivate disciples in the Yuanying stage, then Kangshan Xiancheng will inevitably be coveted by major forces. Whether it can keep this foundation at that time is a matter of 2 words. But if he does not stay in Kangshan Xiancheng, he can't think of where to go for a while. After all, he didn't know much about the world of immortal cultivation, and he didn't know where the real good place was. Thinking of this, he sighed secretly, and then suppressed his thoughts, because these were just his personal guesses, and the specific situation would be known only after returning to the Immortal City. There was no need to make a decision immediately, and it was better to understand the situation clearly. So Wei Hong thought about it and asked again, who are the three surviving giant cultivators? Chapter 884 The situation changes. Fellow Taoist, are you referring to the giant cultivators who have not fallen in Kangshan Immortal City? Guan Yuan was stunned for a moment, then asked cautiously. Nonsense, am I asking about the blood spirit sect? Wei Hong frowned, and his tone became cold. No, it's me who is stupid. Guan Yuan waved his hands hurriedly, and then replied without any delay. Among the three giant cultivators who survived the war, two were disciples of Kangshan's Henrun. One of them is the founding disciple, and also the city lord of Kangshan Immortal City, Lei Ling. City Lord Lei's cultivation has long reached the peak of Jiandan, and it was he who held back the three giant cultivators of the blood spirit sect, which prevented the situation from becoming deteriorating. The second is Kangshan's Henrun's third disciple Xiaoyu, and the last one is the pavilion master of Danwang Pavilion, Bidang Mo. Except for Kangshan's Henrun's two disciples who went out and never returned to the Immortal City, there are only these three giant cultivators left in the Immortal City at this time. Hearing this, Wei Hong was surprised. Bidang Mo? The pavilion master of Danwang Pavilion didn't die. He didn't expect that Bidang Mo could survive such a war. Guan Yuan nodded and said, yes, it is said that the pavilion master of Bidang was only slightly injured and did not die. Since there are only three giant cultivators left in the entire Kangshan Immortal City, doesn't that mean that even the Immortal City can be saved? Aren't there any unusual reactions or actions from off forces? Wei Hong directly pointed out his doubts. In the world of the jungle of immortal cultivation, since the once huge Kangshan Immortal City has now become weak and may even collapse at any time, for the other major forces that have been eyeing it, this is definitely a piece of extremely fat cake, and perhaps all forces want to take a bite. Hey, how did you know that? Guan Yuan's expression also became surprised. He looked at Wei Hong in surprise, and then said, it is indeed as you said. Kangshan Immortal City has been coveted by various forces as soon as it showed signs of decline. The major sects have not only sent many masters and geniuses to Kangshan Immortal City, but have also been constantly making tentative moves. Over the past few decades, the major sects have been trying to extend their hands into the territory of Kangshan Immortal City step by step. What's more, they are constantly inquiring about the situation of Kangshan's Henrun, as if they want to force Kangshan's Henrun to come forward. Fortunately, there is City Lord Lei to stabilize the situation, which makes the major sects dare not be too presumptuous. Guan Yuan's answer directly confirmed Wei Hong's thoughts and guesses. Since Kangshan Immortal City has greatly reduced its strength, even Kangshan's Henrun, who is the pillar of heaven, has fallen into a state of serious injury and has not recovered, and his lifespan is not much. Under such circumstances, more and more wolves will naturally appear around to spy and test. Once Kangshan Immortal City really shows signs of fatigue, those wolves will definitely rush up and bite crazily without restraint. This is the cruel reality of the world of immortal cultivation. Before Wei Hong continued to ask, Guan Yuan had already said very skillfully, it's just that it's very rare for our city lord to be able to stabilize the situation temporarily, but the major sects have not given up on pressure and temptation, such as this trip to the secret realm. This time, there are as many as 700 or 800 foundation building cultivators entering the secret realm, but it is very different from the last time, because most of the places are occupied by the Xianjiao disciples of the major sects. For this trip to the secret realm, the major sects have put pressure on the city lord, and the city lord has to completely open up the quota in order to stabilize the situation, so the major sects directly divided up most of the quota this time. The temptation is not over in one go, but is gradual and even step by step. This trip to the secret realm shows the attitude of the major sects towards Kangshan Immortal City now, and this is just another test of them. Wei Hong could fully imagine how much pressure the city lord Lei Ling had to bear, so he admired the city lord Lei Ling, whom he had never met. Then how did you three brothers get the quota? Wei Hong was really curious about this. Guan Yuan's face flashed a trace of embarrassment, and then he said embarrassedly, because some cultivators chose to temporarily avoid the limelight after learning about the actions of the major sects, they did not want to compete with the genius disciples of the major sects, so there were quotas for sale. In order to be able to form a pill, the three of us brothers also spent all our wealth to exchange for 3 quotas to enter the secret realm. I see. Wei Hong nodded lightly, and then stretched out his hand and flicked it. Bang! Guan Yuan immediately fainted on the ground. After knocking Guan Yuan unconscious, Wei Hong woke up the second brother Guan Yuan indirectly. Huh? What do you mean, fellow Taoist? What did you do to my brothers? After waking up, the second brother Guan Yuan saw that his brothers were lying on the ground in a state of life or death, and immediately questioned them in shock and anger. Wei Hong frowned slightly and said in a cold voice, "They just fainted. Now I ask you questions and you answer them. If what you three brothers say doesn't match, then let's go together." The second brother Guan Yuan calmed down and was forced to accept the reality. The questions Wei Hong asked were basically the same, and Guan Yuan's answers were basically the same as Guan Yuan's. Repeating this, he soon interrogated all three of the Guan family villains, and the results he got were no different, which made him feel relieved. After knocking all three of them unconscious again, Wei Hong fell into deep thought. Soon, a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Blame it on you for doing so many evil things," Wei Hong muttered to himself, and then put his right hand on Guan Yuan's head. The next moment, the powerful divine consciousness directly invaded Guan Yuan's soul. The spell he was casting now was the soul-searching spell that frightened countless people. Obviously, Wei Hong did not completely believe the one-sided words of the three evil men of the Guan family, so he planned to search their souls directly, so that he could get the most truthful answer. As for the soul-searching technique, it was actually just a small magic. If it was used on a cultivator of the same level, the probability of success was actually not high, and it could not be used on people whose spiritual consciousness was stronger than his own. It was precisely because of these limitations that the soul-searching technique was not something that ordinary people could use. However, with Wei Hong's spiritual consciousness now reaching the golden core stage, it was really easy to search the souls of the three foundation-building cultivators. After a moment, Wei Hong loosened his hand. Then he followed the same method and soon searched the souls of all the three evil men of the Guan family. When he finished searching their souls, the three evil men of the Guan family had completely fainted at this time. Even if they could wake up, they would only become a muddle-headed fool. After comparing all the memories in the spiritual souls of the three evil men of the Guan family, Wei Hong murmured, "What the three said is true. I didn't expect that I just happened to escape this catastrophe." Chapter 885, Surrounded by Wolves. Boom. With a wave of Wei Hong's hand, the three evil Guans on the ground were instantly burned to ashes by a ball of flame. A breeze blew, and the three ashes completely dissipated. At this point, the three evil Guans disappeared completely from the world. Wei Hong seemed to have done something insignificant, and he had no guilt at all. For people like the three evil Guans who have done so many evil things, he would naturally not let them go. Just now, through soul-searching, he saw the various crimes committed by the three evil Guans, and it was really not a pity that they died. I can be regarded as doing justice for the heavens and eliminating harm for the people. Such a thought flashed through Wei Hong's mind, and then he completely forgot about the three evil Guans who had already dissipated. At this moment, he suddenly sighed with emotion. "I didn't expect that staying in this secret realm not only gave me great opportunities and great fortune, successfully broke through to the Jinden stage, and condensed the Xiandao Jinden, but also unexpectedly escaped a revenge killing and a catastrophe. It was really unexpected." At this moment, Wei Hong felt deeply fortunate. If he had not chosen to stay in the secret realm, but had taken a gamble and left the secret realm directly, then what awaited him was not only the revenge of the Huangfu family's Jinden ancestor, but also the war between Kangshan Xianchang and Zuling sect. Even if he escaped the revenge of the Huangfu family's Jinden ancestor by chance, he would definitely not be able to escape the impact of that war. That horrible war was definitely a terrible catastrophe for cultivators below the Jinden stage. If you were involved in it, you might be torn to pieces at any time. And Wei Hong's successful escape from this disaster also proved that his choice was absolutely correct. Although he has not learned more about the situation in the outside world, he has learned through soul searching of the three evil men of the Guan family that even though the Blood Spirit sect has retreated, the situation in Kangshan Immortal City has become worse. A pack of wolves are lurking around, staring at him like a tiger. If Wei Hong wants to continue to stay in Kangshan Immortal City, he needs to think about it carefully. But it is too early to think about it now. What he needs to do now is to wait for the closure of the secret realm. But these 3 months can't be wasted. I want to see what kind of talent those sects have. Wei Hong's eyes flashed with a strange color, and he made a decision in an instant. There are still 3 months before the secret realm is closed. During this time, He decided to take a good look at the strength and quality of those sect's talent. Of course, he will definitely not let go of those who have done many evil things. Anyway, he is an absolute strong man in the secret realm, and no one can stop him from doing what he wants. Thinking of this, Wei Hong immediately got up and left the cave. 3 days later. Outer Domain, East. At this time, 4 young men wearing uniform clothes but with different cultivation realms were surrounding 2 women. One of the 2 women was wearing a goose yellow palace skirt, and the other was wearing a light blue slim-fitting brocade robe. The one wearing the goose yellow palace skirt had reached the late stage of foundation building, and the other was in the middle stage of foundation building. The 2 women were very beautiful, but the one wearing the goose yellow palace skirt was taller, while the one wearing the blue brocade robe looked petite and cute, and their styles were different. At this time, the woman in the late stage of foundation building angrily shouted with a frosty face, "What do the 4 Taoist friends from Xiangxin sect mean? Why did you stop us 2 sisters?" The uniform clothes worn by the 4 young men happened to have a circle center symbol engraved on them, which meant that the 4 were disciples of Xiangxin sect. Among the 4, a handsome man in the late foundation building stage smiled and said, "Hey, don't be afraid, the 2 fairies from the Jiling sect. We just want to borrow something from you. I hope you can help us." The 4 disciples of the Xiangxin sect had all reached the late foundation building stage. They formed a very strong contrast with the 2 female cultivators from the Jiling sect. Therefore, the 4 of them looked at the 2 female cultivators surrounded in the middle with a relaxed and playful look. Upon hearing this, the female cultivator in the goose yellow palace skirt frowned and asked, "I wonder what the 4 Taoist friends want to borrow? We 2 sisters have just entered the secret realm not long ago, and we haven't gained anything yet." The female cultivator was naturally not stupid. Since the 4 disciples of the Xiangxin sect dared to surround them, they must have some ulterior motives, so she directly stated that she had not gained anything yet. But the leading man smiled faintly and said, "It doesn't matter if you don't get anything. Hand over the storage bag for us to see. We promise that we will never hurt the 2 fairies." As soon as these words came out, before the female cultivator in the goose yellow palace skirt could speak, the petite female cultivator immediately scolded angrily, "Don't even think about it. A disciple of the dignified Xiangxin sect actually does this kind of robbery. Aren't you afraid that the entire Xiangxin sect will be laughed at if you tell others about it? Others are afraid of you, but we in the Jiling sect are not afraid of you. If you have the ability, come and get it yourself." Even though the petite female cultivator still had a nervous look on her face, she still mustered up the courage to speak out and scolded. Obviously, she didn't want to give in, and her temper was extremely fierce. "That's right, the 4 Taoist friends are disciples of the righteous way, but they are doing this kind of evil practice. We disciples of the Jiling sect will never compromise. If you want to fight, we will kill you. Even if we die, it will never be what you want." The woman in the goose yellow palace skirt also behaved very tough, and at this time she had taken out a flying sword from the storage bag. The 2 female cultivators from the Jiling sect were clearly prepared to be besieged, and their faces turned fearless. They all knew that it would be very difficult to escape from the siege of 4 late-stage foundation building cultivators, so they might as well give it a try. Okay. The Xiangxin sect man who led the group laughed in anger, and then his face suddenly turned cold. "Since you are so ignorant, don't blame us 4 brothers for being unrighteous. 3 brothers, take them down." The 3 men next to them immediately responded, "Yes, brothers." Buzz! The spiritual power was floating, and the 4 disciples of the Xiangxin sect were about to launch an attack. Who would have thought that something strange would happen at this time? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 4 flying swords suddenly appeared out of thin air from 4 different directions, and then stabbed straight at the 4 disciples of the Xiangxin sect. "How dare you? Who is it? Brother, someone is attacking. Quick, stop the flying swords." The 4 men who were about to take action immediately noticed the abnormality and shouted vigilantly. But the speed of the 4 flying swords was so amazing that before the 4 Xiangxin disciples could react, the 4 flying swords passed by like lightning, so fast that the 4 Xiangxin disciples could not even react. Puff! Puff! The 4 flying swords quickly circled around the necks of the 4 young men. In an instant, the 4 heads were separated from the bodies. 4 blood pillars also shot up into the sky and then fell to the ground. The smell of blood spread in the air, and the 4 headless bodies immediately fell to the ground. Chapter 886 Crazy Massacre. Ah! What is this? The sudden change in front of them immediately frightened the two female cultivators of Jiling sect and screamed. They were full of horror and disbelief. They didn't expect that the four cultivators who had just threatened them would be beheaded by a sword in an instant. Such a horrifying scene frightened the two female cultivators and immediately looked around in horror. They didn't dare to move at all at this time, fearing that the four flying swords would target them. But what happened next surprised the two female cultivators even more. They saw that the four flying swords that suddenly appeared did not target them, but returned directly to the original path with a whoosh, making the two female cultivators of Jiling sect stunned in place. "This, senior sister, what's going on?" the petite female cultivator asked with a confused look on her face. The female cultivator in the goose-yellow palace skirt just smiled bitterly and replied, "How should I know? I haven't recovered yet." The two of them didn't know what happened at all, they only knew that they seemed to be safe. All threats had been eliminated, and the bodies of the four Shiangxin sect disciples had already fallen to the ground. Obviously, there must be a mysterious cultivator behind the scenes who killed the four people. After figuring this out, the two female cultivators of the Jiling sect breathed a sigh of relief. However, just as they were about to leave, they found that things were not over yet. A black stream of light rushed from a distance and soon landed above the four bodies. At the same time, there was a slightly stiff figure running towards the four bodies on the ground in the distance. After the black stream of light came above the four bodies, it revealed its true face. It was a 3-foot-tall flag with a pitch-black flag. 10,000 souls flag. After seeing the appearance of the flag, the tall female cultivator, who was a senior sister, couldn't help but cover her mouth and exclaimed, "What, is that the 10,000 souls flag?" The petite woman's face changed immediately after hearing this. They had never thought that the mysterious monk who killed four Shiangxin sect disciples behind the scenes actually possessed the magic weapon, the 10,000 souls banner. The 10,000 souls banner gently shook the banner, and an invisible suction force emerged out of thin air. A transparent soul slowly began to rise from the four corpses. After a moment, the four souls were sucked into the 10,000 souls banner with a whoosh. Then the 10,000 souls banner turned into a black stream of light again and flew back to the original path. The next moment, just as the 10,000 souls banner flew away, the slightly stiff figure appeared next to the four corpses, and then quickly took off all the storage bags on the four corpses and put them away. Then the figure stretched out his right hand, with long claws on the 5 fingers. When he swung his claws down, one of the corpses immediately gushed out a lot of blood. Squeak! Exclamation mark. After seeing the blood, the figure immediately lowered his body and began to suck fiercely from the corpse. Refined corpses. Seeing this scene, the two female cultivators of the Jiling sect screamed again. After they screamed, they immediately covered their mouths tightly, and then looked at each other with horror, but they dared not make any more sounds, for fear of attracting each other's attention. Neither of them expected that the mysterious cultivator behind the scenes not only possessed the magic weapons such as the 10,000 souls banner, but also refined such a terrible thing as the silver corpse, which really frightened them. Fortunately, the silver corpse did not stop at all after sucking the blood of the four corpses, and soon turned around and left. "Quick, junior sister, let's leave quickly." Seeing this scene, the tall female cultivator who is the senior sister immediately greeted with a nervous look. The petite female cultivator naturally did not dare to neglect it, and the two of them immediately left in a hurry. Wei Hong, who was 20 miles away, naturally saw the scene of the two female cultivators leaving through his spiritual sense, but he did not have any intention of stopping them. "Hey, how many waves is this? I didn't expect that the geniuses from this big sect would also do such things as burning, killing and looting. It really opened my eyes." Wei Hong's mouth curled up slightly, and it was obvious that he had no good feelings towards the so-called geniuses of the sect. In the past few days, he had encountered many such robbery scenes. After coming out of the cave, he took advantage of his powerful spiritual sense and began to wander quietly in the entire secret realm, and from time to time he expanded his spiritual sense to observe. Whenever he encountered those monks who did many evil things or wanted to rob, Wei Hong immediately controlled the paper figurines or the refined corpses to kill all those monks without any mercy. And after killing those monks who did many evil things, he not only collected all the storage bags of those monks, but also sacrificed the 10,000 souls banner and the refined corpses to absorb all their souls and blood. In general, it is to achieve no waste, and to use everything that should be used. In this way, the power of the 10,000 souls banner and those refined corpses will be increased. After Wei Hong's sacrifice and cultivation, the 10,000 Souls banner is now 3 times more powerful than the second-level top-grade spiritual weapon. There is a tendency to evolve into a magic weapon, but it is still far away. There are dozens of Yin souls cultivated in the 10,000 Souls banner that have reached the peak of foundation building. If all are released, even if they face 10 cultivators at the peak of foundation building at the same time, they will be enough to kill them, unless the opponent has a pure Yang spiritual weapon that is specifically used to deal with Yin objects. As for the 20 silver corpses that have been sacrificed for a long time, they have already reached the peak of foundation building. If a silver corpse fights a cultivator at the peak of foundation building alone, it may not be defeated, but if there are more than 2, it will definitely be able to crush a cultivator at the peak of foundation building. In addition, all the paper figures on Wei Hong's body have been re-infused with spiritual power by him, so the strength of those paper figures is only higher than that of the silver corpses. In this way, Wei Hong didn't need to do it himself. He had too many trump cards that could pose a fatal threat to the foundation building cultivators. He could take out any one of them, whether it was a paper man, the ghost in the 10,000 Souls banner, or the silver corpse, which was enough to kill all the robbers in the secret realm. I don't know if the higher-ranking officials in those sects will regret letting so many disciples participate in the secret realm this time. Wei Hong couldn't help laughing when he thought of the faces that might appear when the major sects learned about their losses. In this secret realm trip, hundreds of foundation-building cultivators not only couldn't find many natural treasures, but were even killed by Wei Hong. These were all the geniuses that their sects had cultivated for a long time. Losing one of them was a huge loss. If several of them died at the same time, it would definitely not be a small matter for a sect. Who would have thought that someone like Wei Hong would appear in the secret realm? What does this so-called sect genius have to do with me? All those who have done evil will be left to me. Wei Hong's eyes flashed with cold light, and he continued to fly away. Chapter 887, Murder and Arson, Gold Belt. 2 months later. In the outer domain, in the cave. Wei Hong casually sat cross-legged on a stone bed, and in front of him were dozens of storage bags of different colors. The number of these storage bags reached 80 or 90, almost 100. So many storage bags, all of which were obtained by him from slaughtering those evil cultivators in the past 2 months. In the past 2 months, Wei Hong has been wandering in the secret realm, and from time to time he has used his spiritual sense to explore the surrounding situation, in order to find those evil robber cultivators. All those who were found by him were killed directly without exception. However, Wei Hong did not really show up, but sent out paper figures and silver corpses, or used the ghosts in the 10,000 Souls banner, which was enough to make those foundation-building cultivators powerless to resist. In this way, he found and killed 80 or 90 foundation-building cultivators in just 2 months. Most of them were the geniuses of the major sects, and it was unknown how those sects would react after learning about such a big loss. The reason why Wei Hong returned to the cave and stopped slaughtering was because there had been various rumors in the past 2 months, saying that there was a mysterious and powerful cultivator in the secret realm who was protecting the righteous path, and that anyone who did evil would be killed directly by that cultivator. The entire secret realm was large, but it was a closed space after all, and some news could never be hidden, so Wei Hong's move was very effective, directly frightening all the surviving cultivators into silence, and they dared not have any bad thoughts at all. They couldn't help but believe it, because there were many eyewitnesses who could testify that even the disciple of Zhuanshan sword sect, the sword cultivator who was at the peak of foundation building, still died at the hands of the mysterious cultivator. In such a situation, who would dare to take risks? The hundreds of surviving foundation building cultivators could only honestly search for spiritual medicines, and did not dare to fight with others, for fear of attracting the attention of the mysterious cultivator, thus bringing themselves a crisis of death. However, there were not many natural treasures in the entire secret realm, and no matter how hard they searched, they did not get much. For the first time, the surviving foundation-building monks felt so confused, as if they had no idea what to do. Wei Hong was not worried at all that killing those foundation-building monks would bring about things like the blood curse, because he did not do it himself. Looking at the dozens of storage bags in front of him, he could not help but smile faintly. I never thought that one day I would also be troubled by dealing with spoils. There were too many storage bags in front of him, and he had to look through them one by one. If it were in the past, he might be very excited and expectant, but now that he has broken through to the golden core stage, He naturally does not look at the wealth of some foundation-building monks very much, and does not have much expectation. Wei Hong shook his head slightly to suppress the thoughts in his mind, and then picked up the first storage bag. His spiritual sense gently probed into the storage bag, and a few breaths were enough for him to check everything inside. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and flicked it, and a pile of middle-grade spirit stones were taken out of the storage bag. Then he put all the middle-grade spirit stones into his own storage bag, and left all the other things untouched. After throwing the storage bag in his hand aside, he picked up another storage bag. Hey, the sect's genius is so poor. Nothing except more than 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones? Is he still a foundation-building cultivator? Well, this is not bad. There are more than 3,000 middle-grade spirit stones, and 7 or 8 bottles of second-level high-grade elixirs and some talismans. I am finally a little comforted. Hey, what is this? A talisman? Good stuff. And this seems to be a third-level blue light stone? Haha, I've made a profit. As Wei Hong opened the storage bags one by one, various things appeared in front of him one after another. At first, he was a little disappointed, because those storage bags were filled with worthless things. Apart from some mid-grade spiritual stones, there were nothing more than personal daily necessities and clothing, as well as mid- and low-grade second-level spiritual tools, elixirs, sundries, foundation-building skills, spells, and some spiritual medicine ores, etc., all of which were worthless and not worth his attention at all. But later, a few things that surprised Wei Hong appeared slowly, including 2 talismans, a blue ore the size of a human head, a fist-sized golden crystal, and a jade slip. After he checked all the dozens of storage bags, only the above treasures appeared that satisfied him. In addition, there were more than 100,000 mid-grade spiritual stones in dozens of storage bags. The biggest contributors were the top foundation-building genius of Zhuanshan Sword Sect and another genius of Jinden family. The mid-grade spiritual stones on these 2 people added up to more than 40,000, which were completely rich among the foundation-building cultivators. Therefore, finding only 100,000 middle-grade spirit stones from dozens of storage bags is not really a lot. However, these 100,000 middle-grade spirit stones are still a huge sum of money for Wei Hong. Even if he uses more high-grade spirit stones after breaking through to the golden core stage, these 100,000 middle-grade spirit stones can be exchanged for 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. It must be said that it is definitely not a small amount. Haha, it really is the gold belt for killing and arson. The funds come quickly. Wei Hong was a little excited, and then he stopped paying attention to the spirit stones. In addition to the spirit stones, the rest of the dozens of storage bags were mostly some not very valuable things, such as the second-level middle and lower-grade spirit tools and elixirs, etc. He simply made some simple classifications and prepared to deal with them all after going out. After all, no matter how small the mosquito legs are, they are still meat, not to mention that he can give these things to others. As for the personal daily necessities and clothing of those cultivators, he burned them all. As for the storage bags, except for some with special marks or made of special materials, he collected all the others and prepared to deal with them together after he went out. As for the storage bags with special marks, he directly dug a deep pit and buried them. In this way, the spoils collected from killing dozens of foundation-building monks were completely cleared. Now, only the most valuable treasures were left in front of him. Looking at these things in front of him, Wei Hong couldn't help but laugh and said, I didn't expect that these foundation-building monks actually have good things. It seems that these monks have extraordinary backgrounds. The treasures in front of him at this time would be impossible to own without a strong background, especially the 2 talismans, which could only be bestowed by the elders of the sect who were above the Jinden stage. But now these treasures are all in Wei Hong's hands, and the original owners of those treasures are unlucky to meet Wei Hong. Chapter 888, The Jade Moon Phantom Spirit Technique. Wei Hong gently picked up the 2 talismans in front of him. On the 2 talismans, there was a small sword and a small knife. Obviously, these were the most common flying sword and flying knife talismans. The style of the magic weapon is indeed ordinary, and the aura of the 2 talismans seems to be almost the same. The most important thing is that they seem to have never been used. This is a surprise. Wei Hong showed a faint smile of joy on his face, and then looked at them carefully. The unused talismans can support him to use them at least 4 or 5 times. The 2 talismans combined are enough for him to use for a long time. The original owners of the 2 talismans were also careless, and Wei Hong's attack was too fast and too fierce. They were killed before they could react, so they had no chance to use the talismans at all. Not bad, not bad. Before I had the magic weapon, these talismans made up for some of my attack methods. Wei Hong flipped his palm and directly put the 2 talismans away. Then he picked up the blue ore the size of a human head, carefully distinguished it, and nodded secretly, saying, "Yes, it is definitely a 3rd grade lower grade blue lightstone. I didn't expect that a mere foundation building cultivator would have such a good thing." This piece of blue lightstone, which reached the 3rd grade lower grade, is one of the materials for refining water-attributed magic weapons. Although the 2nd grade and 3rd grade seem to be only 1 grade apart, the prices between the two are very different. Let's not talk about treasures that have no market pricing. Just take spiritual herbs as an example. The 2nd grade top grade spiritual herbs are generally between 600 and 800 medium grade spiritual stones. The most expensive ones are only 1,000 yuan. That is, the natural materials and treasures that help to form pills are more precious and rare, and are worth more than 2,000 medium grade spiritual stones. But once the grade of spiritual flowers and herbs reaches the 3rd grade, even if it is only the 3rd grade lower grade, it is at least worth 100 high grade spiritual stones. If converted into medium grade spiritual stones, it is worth more than 10,000 yuan. The difference can be imagined. After all, a 3rd level treasure is something that only a giant stage cultivator can use, so the price is naturally extremely expensive. Take the blue lightstone in Wei Hong's hand, which is the size of a human head. This is a material for refining magic weapons. It is impossible to get it without 1 or 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. It may be even more expensive at an auction. Otherwise, how could there be so many giant cultivators in the world of immortal cultivation who would almost go bankrupt in order to refine a handy magic weapon? There is also a piece of golden crystal stone next to it, called Jin stone, which is also a 3rd level low-grade ore for refining fire attribute magic weapons, and its value is also similar. It can be said that being able to get 2 3rd level low-grade materials at once is enough to show that Wei Hong's luck and opportunity are quite good. With these 2 materials, he can find a way to trade them with others after he goes out, so as to exchange them for wood attribute materials that are more suitable for refining magic weapons, which can save a lot of effort. Good, haha, good stuff. I didn't expect that those sect geniuses really had so many treasures. It's worth my hard work. Wei Hong laughed happily. Such a harvest has made him very satisfied. He didn't know whether these 2 pieces of 3rd level inferior ore were obtained by chance by the 2 foundation building monks, or given by their elders. But no matter what, now they have become his personal property. After collecting the 2 pieces of ore of different colors, Wei Hong picked up the last jade slip. This jade slip is very special. Not only is it smaller than ordinary jade slips, only the size of an egg, but it is also round and mellow, obviously made of higher level jade. Wei Hong was indeed a little curious about the contents of this jade slip. So without any hesitation, he directly picked up the jade slip and stuck it on the center of his forehead. His spiritual consciousness directly entered the jade slip and began to carefully check the contents recorded in it. After a moment, Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes, and then put down the jade slip, wondering secretly, the Jade Moon Phantom Spirit Technique. The jade slip recorded a technique called the Jade Moon Phantom Spirit Technique. Wei Hong simply flipped through it and found that it was a water-attributed technique that could be cultivated to the late giant stage, but the content recorded in the jade slip could only be cultivated to the middle giant stage, and the content of the last level of the technique should not have been included. Water-attributed technique? It doesn't have much effect on me. Wei Hong shook his head and could only put the jade slip away. For him, the Jade Moon Phantom Spirit Technique didn't have much effect. He practiced a wood-attributed technique, and the King Guang Sword Technique was enough to support him to the early Yuanying stage. If he couldn't find a better technique, he would definitely not change the technique in a short time. On the contrary, he needed more magic at the giant stage. Well, put it away first, and study it carefully when I have time to see if it has any promoting effect. After putting away the jade slip, Wei Hong began to think about the next arrangement. Now there is only 1 month left before the secret realm closes. He has no intention of doing anything else during this month. He just wants to quietly wait for the secret realm to close, and then leave the secret realm and return to Kangshin Immortal City. But returning to Kangshin Immortal City may also have some risks. I don't know if there are any giant cultivators in charge of guarding the teleportation hall. If there are, it should be difficult for me to escape the divine sense of the giant and cultivators once I appear. Wei Hong was a little worried, but he could not change the things outside the secret realm. He was worried that he would be detected by the giant and cultivators as soon as he appeared in the teleportation hall. However, he only needed to scan the divine sense lightly, and he would be nowhere to hide. Because Wei Hong is also a giant and cultivator in the early stage, his cultivation level can be restrained and disguised, but facing a higher level than him, such disguise is easy to be seen through. Now we can only hope that there are no giant and cultivators in charge. Wei Hong shook his head slightly and temporarily suppressed his thoughts. Through the soul search of the three evil Guan family, he had already learned that there were only 3 giant and cultivators left in the huge Kangshan Immortal City. According to this situation, it is very likely that these 3 giant and stage cultivators will not personally sit in the transmission hall, especially since most of the places to enter the secret realm this time have been divided up by the major sects. Perhaps the 3 giant and cultivators do not care about the gains of other forces at all. Thinking of this, Wei Hong was relieved a little. Regardless of whether there are giant and cultivators sitting outside, he must make all preparations. As long as the secret realm is closed, he will leave the secret realm as soon as possible. He has been trapped here for 60 years, and he really doesn't want to stay any longer. If Wei Hong does not return to the world of immortal cultivation, it will be difficult for him to even advance to a higher level of cultivation, not to mention the spells, elixirs, talismans, formations and other supporting resources suitable for the giant stage, which he will never be able to find in the secret realm. No hurry, there is only 1 month left, and we can get out if we wait a little longer. Suppressing the thoughts in his mind, Wei Hong re-entered the state of cultivation. Chapter 889 The secret realm is opened, and doubts arise. 1 month later, Wei Hong, who was sitting cross-legged in the cave, suddenly felt the secret realm tremble slightly, and then an invisible repulsive force began to appear. Huh? Is the secret realm going to close? Wei Hong opened his eyes, but he was not surprised. Calculating the time, today is the day when the secret realm is closed. Therefore, facing the sudden repulsive force, Wei Hong did not panic at all. He had packed up all his things in advance, and now he was disguised as Guan Yuan, the eldest of the 3 evil men of the Guan family. Moreover, he had restrained most of his aura, revealing only his late foundation building cultivation. In this way, as long as there were no cultivators above the middle stage of the golden core, no one would be able to see through his disguise, and it would be enough for him to leave safely. Now I hope there are no golden core cultivators in the teleportation hall. Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart, but he was not too worried. Even if there were really golden core cultivators sitting in the teleportation hall, he had other ways to leave Kangshan Immortal City. At most, he would expose his cultivation, which was not a big deal. Moreover, he disguised himself to look weak and pale, as if he was seriously injured and had not recovered. I believe this was enough to deceive all cultivators below the giant stage. The next moment, the repulsive force generated in the secret realm suddenly increased. Wei Hong did not resist at all, allowing the repulsive force to completely wrap him up. Buzz! A flash of white light passed, and Wei Hong's figure completely disappeared from the secret realm. Kangshan Immortal City, the teleportation hall. In the teleportation formation on the high platform, there was a sudden buzzing sound and bursts of white light were emitted. At the same time, an invisible force of space flashed by, which refreshed everyone present. Here they come. They are out, ready to come out. Haha, the 3-month secret realm period has come, and I don't know how much our Shiangxin sect disciples have gained. Humph, maybe nothing. In the teleportation hall, in the open space not far from the high platform, hundreds of foundation building cultivators were anxiously waiting. When they saw the white light of the teleportation formation, they couldn't help but shout. Apart from the hundreds of waiting foundation building monks and the guards, there was no one else in the entire teleportation hall. As for the giant stage monks that Wei Hong was worried about, there was not even a shadow of them. Indeed, as Wei Hong expected, most of the places to enter the secret realm this time were taken by the major sects, and not many people from Kangshan Immortal City entered it. In addition, the number of giant monks in Kangshan Immortal City has dropped sharply, so the city lord Leiling did not send giant monks to sit here. Obviously, there is no need for this. The foundation building monks waiting here are the deacons of the major sects, or the clansmen of some immortal cultivation families. They are just waiting for the return of their own disciples, so there are no giant and monks at all. In this way, the problem that Wei Hong was most worried about did not appear. Buzz! White light flashed, and Wei Hong's figure immediately appeared in the teleportation array. After he returned to the teleportation hall, he immediately pretended to stumble out of the teleportation array. Combined with his pale and bloodless face and his weak aura, everyone present immediately determined that this person must be in a state of severe injury. It was because Wei Hong sensed hundreds of eyes and consciousness scanning him when he just appeared in the teleportation hall, so he reacted immediately. Hey, who is this person? Returning from severe injury? Is there an irresistible danger in the secret realm? Tisk, which sect is this person from? He was injured so badly. I don't know him. It seems that he is not a sect disciple. I don't know what happened to him. As expected, after seeing Wei Hong's weak state of severe injury, the hundreds of foundation-building cultivators present immediately whispered to each other with different expressions. At the same time, they were also a little curious. They didn't know what happened to Wei Hong that made him so embarrassed. After stumbling for a while, Wei Hong pretended to cover his mouth and coughed several times. Then he looked around with a slightly confused and surprised look, as if giving people a feeling that he was very surprised to be able to come back alive. He didn't dare to use his spiritual sense rashly at this time, fearing that he would attract the attention of the giant and monks in the city. He didn't care whether there were any giant and monks in the hall at this time. After he stepped out of the teleportation array, he immediately walked towards the door of the hall in a hurry, as if he wanted to go back to heal his wounds. Faced with this situation, most people at the scene didn't notice anything unusual. After all, he was seriously injured and had the chance to return to the fairy city, so he was naturally anxious to go back to heal his wounds. Of course, there were a few people who had a flash of doubt in their eyes, but after careful observation and scanning twice with spiritual sense, they didn't find anything unusual, so they didn't rashly say anything. In this way, under the gaze of hundreds of foundation-building monks, Wei Hong walked out of the teleportation hall with great ease, without anyone stopping him, and no one noticed anything wrong. Haha, there really is no giant and cultivator in charge. God is really helping me. After walking out of the teleportation hall, looking at the familiar scene in the fairy city, Wei Hong couldn't help laughing in his heart, feeling happy for his correct guess and good luck. However, he still didn't show any strange color on the surface, but became weaker and weaker. His steps became a little shaky, and then he walked quickly towards the city gate. For Wei Hong, a cultivator who had just returned from the secret realm and was injured, the guards outside the hall had no intention of rushing at all. They just glanced at him and let Wei Hong leave. Moreover, these guards in the fairy city had long known that most of the places for this secret realm trip had been taken by major sects. They could neither afford to offend nor dare to ask those sect disciples. In this way, Wei Hong walked slowly to the east gate of the fairy city very smoothly. I must leave the fairy city immediately, and I must not stay in the fairy city, so as not to expose my true identity. Wei Hong had already made up his mind and didn't want to stay in the fairy city at all. When he entered the secret realm 60 years ago, he had already brought all the important things with him. What he left in the Dangwon pavilion were some worthless sundries. Moreover, 60 years had passed, and a great war had taken place in the Immortal City. It was unclear whether the Dangwon pavilion still existed, so there was no need to go back. So Wei Hong walked out of the city gate quickly and soon came to the other side of the moat. At this time, there were still countless cultivators entering and leaving the Kangshan Immortal City. Wei Hong did not stand out among them at all, but perfectly hid himself, and no one could find anything unusual. After reaching the area where he could fly with a sword, Wei Hong immediately flew up with his sword, and then rushed towards the direction of the Qianling Mountains without any intention of stopping. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 890 Unbelievable. At the same time, just as Wei Hong stepped out of the teleportation hall, the teleportation array on the high platform flashed white light again. Buzz! The white light flashed, and several figures appeared in the teleportation array. The monks who had just returned from the secret realm paused for a moment, and then immediately stepped out of the teleportation array. Soon, the teleportation array flashed white light continuously. The hundreds of surviving foundation-building monks returned to the teleportation hall one after another, and were warmly welcomed by their own sex or families. Haha, junior brother, you are finally back. How is it? Did you get a good harvest from this trip to the secret realm? Oh, third brother, you are finally back. I am glad that you are okay. Senior brother, this way, the master ordered me to welcome you. Junior sister, how is it? Did you get a good harvest? Big brother, where's the fifth brother? Why can't I see him? Seeing that the monks who entered the secret realm returned one after another, the monks waiting in the hall surrounded them enthusiastically. They asked curiously, with different expectations in their eyes. There seemed to be a tacit consensus that there would be considerable gains in entering the secret realm. After all, the secret realm had been opened more than once or twice. Although there would be considerable casualties every time the secret realm was opened, almost every cultivator who survived had more or less gains, so the cultivators waiting outside would naturally think so. You have to know that the secret realm is a treasure land known for its countless natural treasures, otherwise the quota to enter the secret realm would not be so fiercely fought for. However, in the face of the enthusiastic inquiries of the sect brothers or family elders, the hundreds of cultivators who had just returned from the secret realm fell silent at the same time. This scene was very strange. The faces of the hundreds of foundation-building cultivators were a little ugly, and there were also doubts, fear, indignation, relief and fear, etc. In short, their faces were different, but there was one thing in common, that is, they all remained silent. Such a strange scene was naturally quickly noticed by everyone at the scene, and then the entire teleportation hall slowly became silent. The more than 100 monks waiting outside could not help but look at each other in bewilderment. They had no idea what had happened, nor did they know why hundreds of foundation-building monks had fallen silent at the same time. Therefore, they quickly put away their smiles, and their eyes were full of doubts and puzzlement. Junior brother, what happened? A burly monk at the peak of foundation building frowned and could not help but ask directly. As soon as this was said, everyone's eyes turned to him. The person being questioned was a slightly younger monk in the late stage of foundation building. Facing the question of his senior brother, he had to smile bitterly and answer, "Senior brother, it's not that we don't want to answer you, but we don't know how to answer." Hearing this, the senior brother of the young monk immediately asked sternly, "What do you mean by not knowing how to answer? Just say what you have gained. What is there to hide? There is really nothing to hide." The young monk smiled bitterly again, then shook his head and said, "Because there is nothing to gain at all, it can be said that there is nothing." When this sentence was spoken, it immediately caused 1,000 waves. Nothing? How is this possible? This is nonsense. How could there be nothing in the secret realm? Fellow Taoist, it's you who didn't gain anything, right? You can't represent others. Third brother, what's going on? Is what this fellow Taoist said true? The monks waiting outside asked in surprise, as if they could hardly believe this fact. The young man asked with a heavy face, "Brother, are you serious? What is going on?" "It is absolutely true. Brother, you can ask all the Taoist friends present." The young man took a deep breath and then slowly explained, "After we entered the secret realm this time, we found that the scene was completely different from what we imagined. The secret realm is not full of natural treasures as rumored, but there are not many spiritual flowers and herbs of the second level middle and lower grades. And the monsters are also extremely rare, and they are all monsters below the middle stage of foundation building. Even in the inner area of the secret realm, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is very abundant, but there is almost no trace of natural treasures of the second level upper grade or above, as if they were picked up in advance. Don't say you don't believe it, we couldn't believe it at the time. But the fact is that the entire Xingyian secret realm can be said to be quite barren, and we can say that we have gained nothing." After saying this, the young man breathed a sigh of relief, as if the stone that had been pressing on his heart had finally fallen, and he seemed extremely relieved. However, his words had a huge impact on the cultivators waiting outside. "What? They've all been picked? How is that possible? The secret realm only opens once every 60 years, how could there be nothing inside? Nonsense, when has the secret realm not been filled with natural treasures? Now you're saying there's nothing, that's absolutely impossible." "Right, are you mistaken? Did no one gain anything? Really? Such a huge secret realm has nothing? I've never heard of the Zingyuan secret realm being barren. More than 100 monks waiting outside were shocked and asked questions. Some of them couldn't believe it, some questioned it, and some questioned it. All of them couldn't believe this fact. At this time, the other monks who had just returned from the secret realm began to speak one after another. Brother, this is absolutely true. There is absolutely no falsehood. Brother, there is really nothing in the secret realm. It is completely bare. Alice, it is indeed hard to believe, but this is the truth. All the fellow Taoists present here are the same. There is almost nothing to gain. It is useless for you not to believe it. When the cultivators who entered the secret realm confirmed it one after another, the cultivators waiting outside were completely shocked. They had never expected that they would wait for such a result. The secret realm that was rumored to be full of natural treasures has become extremely barren. Where are the natural treasures? Where are the monsters? Where are the good things that have been nurtured in the secret realm for 60 years? For a moment, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly became silent and weird. Countless questions flashed through everyone's mind, but no answers were given. No one knew that all this was done by Wei Hong. He almost completely searched the entire Zingyuan secret realm, leaving only an empty shell for other cultivators. Such a weird thing has never happened in hundreds of years. However, one person can lie, but hundreds of foundation-building cultivators cannot lie at the same time. Therefore, other cultivators had to choose to believe it no matter how unbelievable it was. In this way, the Zingyuan secret realm suddenly became barren, and the news that all cultivators had gained nothing began to spread in Kangshan Immortal City, shocking countless people. Chapter 891, Ancestor Huangfu is here. Outside Kangshan Immortal City, Wei Hong turned into a stream of green light and rushed towards Kainling Mountain Range. Although he had expected it beforehand, he was still a little surprised to be able to leave Kangshan Immortal City so easily, and he felt like the sky was high and the birds were flying freely. Finally, I'm back. Wei Hong was quite emotional and very happy at the same time. He had stayed in the secret realm for 60 years. Although this was not a long time, he even broke through to the golden core stage in the secret realm, but the secret realm was not the real world of cultivation after all, and there was no benefit for him to stay in it. Only by returning to the world of cultivation could he find all kinds of materials, skills, talismans, formations, spells and other resources he wanted. Only in this way could he go to the next level and not be trapped in the early stage of golden core forever. Therefore, Wei Hong was full of intimacy with the world of cultivation that he had been away from for 60 years. After he left the scope of Kangshan Immortal City, he immediately increased his speed and soon flew thousands of miles away, and then found a relatively hidden valley in the outer area of Kainling Mountain Range. He first set up a magic sky formation outside the valley to conceal the existence of the valley, and then dug a passage more than 10 feet long into the rock wall deep in the valley, and at the end of the passage he dug a secret room 3 feet wide. This place was just Wei Hong's temporary shelter, so the simpler the better. Puff. After stepping into the secret room, he waved his hand, and the 3 paper figures and the 3 silver corpses pounced on both sides of the passage and disappeared, as if they didn't exist at all. With this backup protection, Wei Hong was really relieved. He believed that even if a giant stage cultivator came to kill him, with a resistance and warning of the paper figures and silver corpses, not to mention blocking the enemy, it would give him enough time to react. It must be said that Wei Hong was indeed cautious enough. After entering the secret room, he immediately took out a golden silk cushion and put it on the ground, then sat cross-legged on the golden silk cushion and began to think. Now I have returned to the world of immortal cultivation, but I need to think carefully about where to go next. The situation in Kangshan Immortal City is unclear, and I don't know whether I should continue to stay. But if I don't stay, I haven't decided where to go yet. Wei Hong didn't know much about the entire world of immortal cultivation. He mostly learned information from maps and books. After he came out of Qinghai Market, he went directly to Kangshan Immortal City. Although he went out several times, they were all for hunting monsters or breaking through realms. He never traveled to other areas. It can be said that he had no knowledge of the areas outside Kangshan Immortal City. Although he had left the secret realm at this time, he did not have a clear destination. With Wei Hong's current giant level of cultivation, he could quickly gain a foothold no matter where he went. If he spread the news that he wanted to join some sect forces or become a guest official of some family, he would definitely be robbed and wooed. But he didn't want to rashly join an unfamiliar force, so as not to affect his cultivation and cause some unnecessary trouble. It was for this reason that he did not leave directly, but stayed near Kangshan Immortal City, obviously still considering whether to continue to stay in the Immortal City. There are only a few giant and cultivators left in the Immortal City now, which is absolutely insufficient for a large force. If I choose to stay, perhaps I will have more opportunities. If I don't stay, should I join those sects? Wei Hong's thoughts turned rapidly in his mind and began to think carefully. He didn't know at this time that because of his appearance, some things that were originally going to be completely annihilated have changed again. Ningguang Mountain, Huangfu family. Ningguang Mountain is located in the south of Kangshan Immortal City, only a few hundred miles away from the Immortal City. This is the end of a small mountain range. Ningguang Mountain is not very high, only 70 or 80 feet, but it breeds a medium-sized spiritual vein, and there is a valley deep in the back mountain. In the valley grows a spiritual flower called ice blue flower. Ice blue flower is a first-class spiritual flower, which can be used to refine first-class healing pills and replenishing essence pills. Therefore, the ancestor of the Huangfu family took a fancy to this place, and then took advantage of his early giant in cultivation to occupy this place, allowing the Huangfu family to take root here and evolve into the current giant family. And the ice blue flowers deep in the back mountain naturally became one of the industries of the Huangfu family, and since then provided a lot of help for the development of the Huangfu family. At this time, at the top of Ningguang Mountain, in a luxurious hall, an old man with black hair seemed to sense something and suddenly opened his eyes while meditating. The old man looked ordinary, but his eyes were narrow and long, and he had an aquiline nose, which looked quite sinister. After the old man opened his eyes, he frowned slightly, as if he was a little confused. Then he closed his eyes again and sensed it, and his face instantly became cold and gloomy. Good, finally appeared. I thought I could never avenge my children and grandchildren in this life, but I didn't expect that this person is really not dead. Very good, now we can no longer suppress the blood curse of our Huangfu family, right? Thief, I want you to live a life worse than death. Huangfu gang let out a long roar of extreme anger, and then immediately turned into a red stream of light and flew out of the hall in an instant. Obviously, Wei Hong's appearance made Huangfu gang feel the existence of the blood curse again at the first time. He has been looking for Wei Hong, his enemy, for 60 years, and now he has finally waited for Wei Hong to appear. Therefore, Huangfu gang's heart is now filled with endless anger and the idea of revenge. Whoosh! In an instant, Huangfu gang's figure appeared in the distant sky. Looking at the direction, it was the area where Wei Hong was. Huangfu gang's furious roar also instantly alarmed the entire Huangfu family. What's going on? What happened? Ancestor? What happened to the ancestor? Where is the ancestor? Where did the ancestor go? What happened? What's going on? The ancestor is so furious, could it be that the Lin family is here to kill him? No, there doesn't seem to be anything unusual around. Has the ancestor discovered something? On Ningguang Mountain, hundreds of figures suddenly appeared in the large buildings. These were all members of the Huangfu family. They were alarmed by Huangfu gang's long roar and came out to check the situation. Then they all looked confused and puzzled. No one knew what happened, let alone where their ancestor had gone. Because with their strength, they could not sense the blood curse thousands of miles away, so only a large group of puzzled Huangfu family members were left staring blankly in the direction where Huangfu gang left. Chapter 892, Settle the Grudge. Outside the Qianling Mountains. In the secret room, Wei Hong was thinking about where to go. At this moment, he suddenly felt a sense of uneasiness coming from the bottom of his heart. The next moment, the Huangxing Xianluo formation outside was completely broken with a bang. Not good. Wei Hong's face suddenly changed, and he immediately turned into a green light and rushed out of the secret room. Whoosh! At the moment the formation was broken, Wei Hong had already appeared above the valley. The green light on the surface flowed, and a layer of spiritual power shield had emerged. At the same time, a dark shield also floated in front of him, protecting him firmly. At this moment, Wei Hong had prepared at least 2 layers of protection. He knew very well that the enemy who came this time was definitely the most powerful opponent he had encountered since entering the world of immortal cultivation. Because the other party had no intention of concealing his cultivation, he showed the aura of the peak of the first level of the golden elixir without a doubt, and locked Wei Hong with a divine sense, as if he was afraid that he would run away. The most important thing is that the other party's breath is full of strong rage and hatred. Obviously, there is no need to say more. He is definitely an enemy, not a friend. However, the man seemed very confident. He broke the formation just to lure him out. After he came out, the man did not take action immediately, but looked at him unscrupulously. Wei Hong looked up and seemed to understand the identity of the enemy. Because this man looked at least 3 points similar to Huang Fuyun, and he could not think of a second person who could have such strong hostility and hatred towards him except the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family. Sure enough, after seeing Wei Hong appear, Huang Fugang immediately stared at him with extremely hateful eyes, and then asked viciously word by word, "Are you the one who killed our Huangfu family's killing child?" Huang Fugang's face was extremely cold, and his eyes were full of hatred and anger. He was very sure that the induction of the blood curse was absolutely correct. The giant and cultivator in front of him was the enemy he had been looking for. However, Huang Fugang was very restrained at this moment and did not take action immediately. Wei Hong did not panic at all, but asked as he had expected, "Huang Fugang, the giant and ancestor of the Huangfu family? You came quite quickly." He did not expect that Huang Fugang could sense the existence of the blood curse from such a distance. This was a miscalculation on his part, otherwise he would definitely be farther away. Huang Fugang saw Wei Hong so confident, and his anger surged. He immediately laughed angrily and said, okay, since you know it is me, you can still be so calm. It seems that you are quite confident." In fact, Huang Fugang was also shocked when he saw Wei Hong. He did not expect that his enemy would be a giant and cultivator. However, considering that his children and grandchildren all died in the secret realm, this person must not have broken through at that time. Now he has become a giant and cultivator after seeing him again after 60 years. He could not know the process, but the results surprised him very much. Fortunately, Huang Fugang did not come here today to ask questions, but to avenge his blood feud. "Thief, you deserve to die." Huang Fugang roared with fury and hatred before Wei Hong could say anything. "No matter who you are, today I will make you pay with blood and return the lives of my children and grandchildren." Swish! Huang Fugang opened his mouth and a red mini flying knife immediately emerged. The next moment, it turned into a red stream of light and slashed directly towards Wei Hong, as fast as lightning. Humph! Wei Hong's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect Huang Fugang to attack directly after a disagreement. Moreover, he could feel that the flying knife was definitely a magic weapon rather than a spiritual weapon. What can be stored in the body for warming must be a magic weapon. After all, Huang Fugang has entered the giant stage for many years, and it is strange that he does not have his own magic weapon. Swish! Wei Hong moved and immediately dodged to the side. At the same time, the dark shield flashed with light and blocked the opponent's red flying knife. Puff! Without any pause, the dark shield was instantly cut in half. The red flying knife continued to move forward, still firmly locking onto Wei Hong's position. Wei Hong did not dare to neglect it, and had already taken out the talisman that originally belonged to Huang Fuyun. Go! The talisman also turned into a flying knife, and under his control, it slashed wildly. Bang! The two flying knives collided fiercely with each other, making a dull sound. However, under the attack of the red flying knife, the talisman was obviously struggling to resist, and was slashed back continuously. It was obviously still far behind the power of the genuine magic weapon. After seeing the talisman, Huang Fugang immediately roared in anger, "The thief deserves death. He killed my owner, and dared to use the talisman I gave him." The talisman was made from Huang Fugang's flying knife. At this moment, it was used by Wei Hong to deal with the genuine one, so its power was naturally incomparable. While controlling the talisman, Wei Hong sneered, "Why not? Huang Fuyun is provoking me without knowing whether to live or die. It's his honor for me to use this talisman." Since the two sides are already mortal enemies, he naturally doesn't mind angering Huang Fugang thoroughly. Sure enough, after hearing Wei Hong's words, Huang Fugang went completely berserk. The red flying knife instantly became more than 10 feet long, and then slashed down fiercely again. However, Wei Hong dodged it easily because his speed was even faster than Huang Fugang's. Huang Fugang saw that he couldn't take Wei Hong down, his eyes suddenly turned red, and then he immediately made hand gestures and muttered something. The next moment, a giant fire dragon more than 10 feet long condensed in the air. This giant fire dragon was not only vivid, but also the scales on the dragon's body appeared extremely clear. At this time, It was emitting an irresistible, terrifying high temperature, which made the space around the fire dragon burn and distort. Go! Huang Fugang roared and pointed at Wei Hong. Roar! The giant fire dragon seemed to let out a silent roar, and then pounced fiercely at Wei Hong. Wei Hong's face was solemn, and he could naturally feel the horror of this giant fire dragon. This was clearly the powerful power that only the giant stage magic could possess, and it was also a method that he had not yet practiced. However, although Wei Hong had not yet practiced the magic of the giant stage, it did not mean that he had no way to resist. Swish! 3 paper figures flew out of Wei Hong's sleeves in an instant, and pounced on the giant fire dragon in the wind. Explode! Wei Hong was also casting spells at the moment of the explosion. The next moment, the 3 paper figures and the giant fire dragon collided directly. Boom! A loud and earth-shattering sound suddenly exploded. The terrifying flames rose up and turned into shock waves that spread all around. At the same time, a trace of mana also rose in the center of the explosion, and with the terrifying explosion power, the giant fire dragon was completely torn apart. Even though Wei Hong was hundreds of feet away, he could still feel the burning sensation coming towards him. Chapter 893 Battle with the Golden Elixir. Huang Fugang was shocked. He didn't expect that the magic he was good at would be broken directly by the opponent. Wei Hong's mind was quietly relaxed. He had already made some judgments about Huang Fugang's strength. The next moment, he could only take out another talisman from the storage bag. Buzz! A golden flying sword emerged from the talisman and stabbed at the red flying knife. He had several talismans in his hand, all of which were spoils of war seized from the secret realm before. At present, he had no magic weapon at hand, so he could only use this talisman temporarily. Ling! The red flying knife fought fiercely with the 2 talismans and was firmly blocked. With the addition of the golden flying sword, Huang Fugang's flying knife magic weapon no longer posed any threat to him. 2 talismans. Huang Fugang was also slightly surprised. He didn't expect that this person could take out 2 different talismans at will. And Huang Fugang was also a little puzzled that Wei Hong had never used his own magic weapon. But at this time, he had no time to care about these things. Seeing that his magic was broken and the magic weapon was also restrained, Huang Fugang's eyes were already red. Thief, die for me! Huang Fugang roared with hatred on his face, and threw 3 talismans at Wei Hong. The 3 talismans were of different colors, red, blue and gold. The red talisman instantly turned into a vermilion bird several feet in size. The wings flapped twice and brought up waves of terrifying high temperatures in the void. The blue talisman turned into an ice crystal giant, condensing an ice crystal plank road in the air. The ice crystal giant rushed towards Wei Hong along the plank road, emitting an astonishing chill. The last golden talisman turned into a dark golden spear about a foot long. The spear was covered with mysterious runes, and the tip of the spear flashed with sharp cold light, and the breath was even more chilling. The 3 talismans blasted straight away at the same time, and the terrible breath locked Wei Hong firmly. However, Wei Hong was not afraid at all. He looked at it calmly, waved his hand and threw out 3 self-destructing talismans, and then immediately released 3 second-level top-grade spiritual tools, each of which went towards the 3 talismans on the opposite side. With his current spiritual power, it was no problem to control several spiritual tools at the same time. The 3 second-level top-grade spiritual tools were the Blood Dragon Black Axe, the Crimson Cloud Dazzling Fire Axe and the Hunun Golden Seal that he collected from other cultivators. Although these 3 were only second-level top-grade spiritual tools and could not be compared with magic weapons, under Wei Hong's control, with his magnificent and powerful magic power as a driving force, the power was not weaker than the 3 talismans of different colors. Boom! The 3 self-destructing talismans exploded first, blocking the momentum of the giant vermilion bird, the ice crystal giant and the dark golden long-haired beast. At this time, the 3 top-grade spiritual tools followed and bombarded. Bang! 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 Under Wei Hong's control, the 3 top-grade spiritual weapons all became 3 feet in size, and chose a head-on collision method. A series of earth-shattering loud noises came out. The 3 talismans were originally offset by the explosion of the self-destructing talisman, and now they were like being hit by a fatal blow under the bombardment of the 3 top-grade spiritual weapons, such as the Blood Dragon Black Wong Axe. The giant Suzuki was directly split in half by the Blood Dragon Black Wong Axe, and with a wail, it turned into a stream of fire attribute aura and dissipated in the air. The ice crystal giant was completely suppressed by the huge Hunun Golden Seal, and after a moment, it turned into a stream of cold air and disappeared directly. Finally, the dark golden spear collided directly with the crimson cloud-dazzling fire axe. Under the head-on collision between the two, the dark golden spear was instantly knocked back and flew out, then shattered in midair, and turned into golden talismans again, and then spontaneously dissipated without fire. In this way, Huang Fugang's offensive this time was once again resolved by Wei Hong. Seeing this, Huang Fugang's face suddenly changed slightly and he said in surprise, "Impossible, yours is obviously only a second-level spiritual weapon, how can it possibly block my third-level low-grade talisman?" Obviously, the three talismans were of higher grade, and they were also offensive talismans, but they could not block three second-level top-grade spiritual weapons, which made Huang Fugang feel very unbelievable. He didn't know that Wei Hong condensed a legendary Heavenly Dao golden pill, and his strength was more than twice that of the cultivators of the same level, whether it was mana or consciousness. Even though Huang Fugang had broken through to the golden pill stage for hundreds of years, he was not much stronger than Wei Hong due to the accumulation of mana. Therefore, even if Wei Hong was only driving a second-level spiritual weapon, under the urging of his powerful mana, it was enough to break three third-level low-grade talismans. Wei Hong would never waste time talking to this old man, and he sneered directly, "You should go down and ask your children and grandchildren about this." The magic power suddenly activated, and the three second-level top-grade spiritual weapons blasted towards Huang Fugang. Okay, if I don't cut you into pieces today, I will be unworthy of being the ancestor of the Huangfu family. Being stimulated by Wei Hong, Huang Fugang instantly became furious. Swish! A yellow talisman was thrown out directly, and then turned into a layer of cocky circular shield that tightly covered Huang Fugang. Clang clang clang. The three spiritual weapons of the Blood Dragon Black Axe directly bombarded the cocky circular shield, but made a dull sound. The three spiritual weapons did not cause any damage to the shield, but were directly bounced away. Huang Fugang seemed to have foreseen this situation long ago. In addition to the circular shield, he did not take any protection at all, but pinched his hands and muttered something. The spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth surged, and under Huang Fugang's spell, a firestorm about 10 feet high and about 3 feet in diameter gradually condensed, and quickly rotated in midair. However, under the continuous rotation, the firestorm quickly rose against the wind and turned into a giant storm more than 10 feet high and more than 2 feet wide. The surface of the storm condensed with orange-red flames, emitting a terrifying high temperature. As the saying goes, fire borrows the power of wind, and wind helps the power of fire. With the mutual assistance of fire and wind, the firestorm exuded a terrible aura after it took shape. Obviously, this is a spell with dual attributes of wind and fire. Every time the firestorm rotated, the surrounding air was burned and twisted, and the storm also rolled up a fierce wind. If a cultivator in the foundation building period was caught in it, he might be torn to pieces. Go! Seeing this firestorm condense into shape, Huang Fugang shouted and pointed in the direction of Wei Hong. Buzz! The firestorm immediately accelerated and emitted a strong suction force, then rolled towards Wei Hong's position, as if to tear him apart. Wei Hong immediately felt a strong suction force locking onto him and trying to suck him in. He just used his magic power slightly, and the suction force from the outside world could not have any effect on him. Looking at the firestorm that was rolling in, Wei Hong just raised his right hand with a calm expression. Chapter 894, Battle Against Golden Korai. Swish! Wei Hong raised his right hand and immediately a 2 zang long clear sword light condensed out. This sword light was the magic green sword light that came with his cultivation method. The green sword light was not only more than 2 zang long, but also 3 feet wide, as if he was holding a giant flying sword in his hand, which looked very impressive. And the clear sword light also exuded a sharp breath that made people feel like thorns on their backs, as if anything would be cut in half in front of this sword light. The next moment, after condensing the sword light, Wei Hong did not retreat but advanced, flying towards the huge firestorm, and at the same time slashed down with his right hand. The sword light did not seem to be proportional to the firestorm. In front of the firestorm, the 2 zang long sword light looked a little slender. However, the misty sword light showed an extremely sharp edge. As Wei Hong's right hand slashed down fiercely, the misty sword light also slashed directly towards the firestorm, just like a green mark in the void. Puff! The firestorm that rolled in was cut in half in an instant under the slash of the green sword light. The firestorm that was cut in half naturally could not rotate anymore, and Wei Hong did not stop. The green sword light swept across and stirred it violently, completely breaking the firestorm that had been split into two halves. Buzz! Whoosh! The strong wind burst immediately with bursts of fire, just like fireworks were blown around by the strong wind. A layer of spiritual power shield rose on the outside of Wei Hong's body, and the strong wind did not affect him at all. He shook his hand slightly and dispersed the green sword light directly. In his heart, he was very satisfied with the power of this green sword light. It's worthy of being the three major moves that come with the technique. It's really not bad. As Wei Hong broke through to the Jinden stage, the power of the green sword light also skyrocketed. The magic spells that come with this kind of technique have no grades, but the power is determined by the practitioner's cultivation in the realm of the spell. There is naturally a huge difference between the performance of a foundation-building cultivator and a Jinden cultivator. Moreover, Wei Hong has already maxed out the green sword light to the limit. When he used it at this time, he easily broke Huang Fugang's spell. Wei Hong waved his sleeves, and the air returned to calm again. Huang Fugang was already stunned at this time. He never thought that the spell he had painstakingly studied for decades to cultivate to the great success realm was broken by Wei Hong easily. This was simply unacceptable to him. "You, who are you?" Huang Fugang looked solemn, his eyes full of shock and confusion. For the first time, he felt a strong curiosity about Wei Hong's identity. Huang Fugang was not a fool. Even though he was full of hatred, he still maintained a clear mind and was not completely overwhelmed by hatred. Seeing that Wei Hong's strength was not weaker than his, Huang Fugang began to think about how likely it was that he would get revenge this time. However, Wei Hong smiled coldly and said, "You should ask your children and grandchildren about this. They are all waiting for you." Swish! 3 top-grade spiritual weapons blasted down at the yellow light shield again, as if they would not stop until the light shield was broken. Wei Hong threw out 3 paper figures at the same time and pounced on Huang Fugang. However, after hearing Wei Hong's words, Huang Fugang's face became completely ferocious. "Very good, today I will definitely keep your soul and burn it with a yin fire for 100 years to relieve my hatred." Huang Fugang's face became extremely cold, and his eyes were full of resentment and hatred. He ignored the 3 paper figures that rushed over and the 3 top-grade spiritual weapons that were bombarding the yellow shield. Instead, he gritted his teeth and showed a resolute look. Huang Fugang bit his tongue and spurted out a mouthful of blood. However, under his control, the blood did not fall to the ground, but floated in front of him. Huang Fugang immediately pinched his hands, muttered something, and spurted out 3 mouthfuls of blood, making the blood suspended in front of him become as big as a fist. After spurting out 4 mouthfuls of blood, although Huang Fugang's breath did not wilted, his face became extremely pale without the slightest blood color. At this time, Huang Fugang had finished casting the spell. His 10 fingers suddenly bounced up, and a stream of magic power was injected into the blood, causing the blood to suddenly undergo a great change. The blood spread out in an instant and soon turned into a mysterious blood symbol the size of a palm. After the mysterious blood symbol condensed into shape, it immediately pounced on Huang Fugang. Silently, the mysterious blood symbol left a faint blood-red mysterious mark on Huang Fugang's body. At this moment, Huang Fugang's aura suddenly soared, almost breaking through to the 2nd level of the Golden Core realm, at least 2 levels stronger than before. This change can be said to have happened in the blink of an eye. Huang Fugang's actions were very decisive and swift, and with the protection of the yellow shield, Wei Hong was too late even if he wanted to stop him. He could only watch Huang Fugang perform the secret technique to improve his strength. Hey, a secret technique similar to the burning blood exploding spear technique? Is the old man going to fight to the death? Wei Hong saw at a glance that this was clearly a desperate secret technique. However, he did not show any panic. To make Huang Fugang do this, he was obviously pushed to the extreme, otherwise it would be absolutely impossible for him to perform such a secret technique with extremely serious sequelae. This was indeed the case. Although they had only fought for a few rounds, none of the various methods Huang Fugang used had worked. Whether it was magic weapons, spells or talismans, none of them had any effect. Instead, they were easily broken one by Wei Hong. In this way, Huang Fugang knew that if he wanted revenge, he would definitely not be able to do it without fighting desperately. He might even die here if he was not careful today. Therefore, he decisively used a secret technique to temporarily improve his strength without any hesitation. Thief, die for me. After improving his strength, Huang Fugang's momentum also increased greatly. He roared angrily and frantically urged the magic power in his body. Swish! The red flying knife that was temporarily restrained by the two talismans suddenly shone brightly at this moment, knocking the two talismans away at once. After breaking free from the restraint, it slashed towards Wei Hong wildly, with a momentum far more amazing than before. At the same time, Huang Fugang took out 7 or 8 talismans from his storage bag, activated them all at once, and blasted them straight at Wei Hong. Not only that, he also took advantage of the fact that the effect of the secret technique had not yet dissipated, and spurted out another mouthful of blood, and then immediately cast a spell, using the blood to condense a giant flame wheel that was 5 or 6 feet long in midair. At this moment, Huang Fugang used all his means. Chapter 895 Black-Scaled Soul Devouring Snake. HMPH, old man, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Wei Hong snorted coldly, not frightened by Huang Fugang's desperate posture. He first stretched out his hand and grabbed the two talismans, then immediately activated them again. Buzz! The two talismans immediately turned into a knife and a sword to slash at the red flying knife. At the same time, he also sacrificed the white bone 9-section whip, holding the whip in his left hand and swung it hard, together with the two talismans to resist the red flying knife. Then Wei Hong threw out more than 10 self-destruct talismans without hesitation, and shot towards the 7 or 8 talismans on the opposite side. Finally, he condensed a green sword light more than 2 feet long in the palms of his left and right hands, and then slashed towards the giant wheel without retreating. Bang! The red flying knife magic weapon was still very strong under the interception of the two talismans and the top-grade spiritual weapon, the white bone 9-section whip. It even rushed left and right, trying to break out of the encirclement of the two talismans, but it was firmly restrained and could not pose any threat to Wei Hong. Then more than 10 self-destructing talismans collided directly with the 7 or 8 talismans thrown by Huang Fugang. Boom! There were waves of earth-shaking noises, and the flames that shot up into the sky were accompanied by shock waves of various colors and continued to spread to the surroundings. However, the power of the self-destructing talismans refined by Wei Hong increased a lot after he broke through to the giant stage. Even when more than 10 talismans were detonated at the same time, they still successfully intercepted the 7 or 8 talismans. Wei Hong did not even look at the two battles next to him, but his figure flashed and quickly flashed to the side of the giant wheel, avoiding the sharp edge while slashing down fiercely with both hands. The scorching heat rushed in his face, but was directly blocked outside by the layer of spiritual power shield. Puff! 2 blue sword beams chopped down like a cross, and instantly cut the giant wheel into 4 pieces. Then the giant wheel that was cut into 4 pieces flew out in all directions with a bang, and before it landed, it turned into a series of fire attribute spiritual power and dissipated in the air. Under the fierce collision, the 2 blue sword beams condensed by Wei Hong also suffered a strong recoil. Fortunately, he still endured it steadily, and then rushed directly towards Huang Fugang. Huang Fugang was furious, and saw that all his methods were easily broken by Wei Hong. He was immediately shocked and angry, but he was already aware of the sharpness of the 2 blue sword beams at this time, and naturally he would not stand up to it. So Huang Fugang's face changed slightly and he retreated, trying to distance himself from Wei Hong. At the same time, in the process of retreating, Huang Fugang quickly cast a spell and condensed a layer of flame wall in front of him, trying to stop Wei Hong. However, under the slash of the blue sword beam, the layer of flame wall could not stop Wei Hong at all. Puff! After breaking through the high wall of flames, Wei Hong blew away the flames with a wave of his hand. But just as he was about to continue chasing, his heart suddenly jumped, and a chill enveloped him, causing his momentum of pursuit to pause. Subconsciously, Wei Hong stretched out his hand and grabbed a silver corpse and blocked it in front of him. Puff! At this time, a dark light flashed and pounced directly on the silver corpse. Wei Hong frowned and didn't see clearly what the black shadow was. The next moment he dodged to the left, and at the same time, his consciousness also enveloped the silver corpse. Huh? Poison? Wei Hong's expression suddenly became cold, and then he stretched out his hand and grabbed. The black shadow that pounced on the silver corpse was instantly caught in his hand and wrapped up with magic power, but the black shadow was still twisting left and right and struggling wildly. He concentrated and looked, and it was clearly a small black snake that was only more than 1 foot long. However, The body of this black snake was not smooth, but covered with fine and hard scales. And the snake's tail was slightly forked, which looked extremely strange. Fortunately, Wei Hong used his magic power to wrap it up and imprison it, otherwise he might be bitten on the palm of his hand by this little snake. At this time, Wei Hong looked at Huang Fugang with murderous intent on his face, and sneered coldly, well, you are worthy of being an old thing who has lived for hundreds of years, and you are really insidious. He could feel that although the breath of this little snake was not strong, it was only equivalent to the level of the late stage of foundation building, but it contained an extremely dangerous poison in its body. Once it was contaminated with a little bit, it might capsize in the gutter and die directly from the poison. If he hadn't reacted quickly and pulled out the silver corpse as a shield, it is estimated that he might have been hit by it at this time. So when he thought of this, Wei Hong's murderous intent towards Huang Fugang's soared. Puff. In shock and anger, Wei Hong directly cut a black snake into 2 pieces with a sword. Ah! Thief, you dare to kill my black-scaled soul-devouring snake. After seeing the black snake being cut into 2 pieces, Huang Fugang roared in shock and anger. The black-scaled soul-devouring snake was his right-hand man that he had cultivated for decades. Although it was only at the late stage of foundation building, the black-scaled soul-devouring snake contained soul-devouring venom in its body. Once bitten by it, not only would the body gradually rot, but the soul would also be eroded by the venom. Once it was bitten, even a mid-stage giant and cultivator would find it difficult to resist. Moreover, the black-scaled soul-devouring snake also had the effect of breaking armor and shields. Huang Fugang had used it countless times in the past, and his opponents were basically not prepared, so he was able to succeed every time. This time, he also used the high wall of fire to block Wei Hong's sight and secretly released a black-scaled soul-devouring snake, trying to sneak attack and kill Wei Hong completely. Who knew that Wei Hong's reaction was so quick and he made the most appropriate response? The black-scaled soul-devouring snake did succeed, but it only bit the silver corpse. The horrible poison had no effect on the silver corpse, because the silver corpse had long lost its soul and its body was as hard as iron. This was one of Huang Fugang's trump cards, but he didn't expect it to fail. Seeing the black-scaled soul-devouring snake being cut in half, he was naturally shocked and angry. Looking at Wei Hong's eyes full of murderous intent, Huang Fugang felt panic for the first time. Wei Hong was a little scared, because he didn't expect Huang Fugang's methods to be so endless. Fortunately, he reacted very quickly, otherwise even with a King Guang sword and shield as the last layer of protection, he might not be able to stop this black snake. Sure enough, no matter who it is, the cultivator who can condense the golden elixir is definitely not a simple person. If you are careless, you may really capsize in the ditch. Wei Hong secretly alerted in his heart, and at the same time, he also secretly warned himself not to be careless. At this time, he looked at Huang Fugang and smiled coldly. Black-scaled soul-eating snake? It almost got caught by you, an old man. Very good, today I will ask you to go downstairs to reunite with your children and grandchildren. A chill suddenly appeared, and Wei Hong raised his hand and sacrificed the Jinitan sword. Chapter 896 Blood Demon Destroying God Pearl. As soon as his mind moved, Wei Hong's spiritual sense was fully deployed. After and during this sneak attack, he became more cautious. Although this would increase the consumption of spiritual sense, in order to be on the safe side, he was also afraid that Huang Fugang would have some insidious means, so it was necessary to use spiritual sense to monitor the surroundings and Huang Fugang's every move at all times. In addition, his spiritual sense was several times stronger than that of the cultivators of the same level, and he was still at ease even if he had already controlled multiple spiritual tools. The moment Huang Fugang saw the Jinitan sword flying over, he immediately sacrificed a second-level top-grade flying knife to meet it. He did not have the first magic weapon on him. With a red flying knife magic weapon temporarily restrained, Huang Fugang could only take out the top-grade spiritual weapon that had not been used for a long time to deal with it, otherwise he really had no weapon at hand. Ling. The flying knife and the flying sword collided fiercely, making a crisp sound. Wei Hong did not stop, but waved his hand and sacrificed the 3 top-grade spiritual tools of the Blood Dragon Black Wang Axe again. Bang bang bang. Huang Fugang felt that he was overwhelmed at this time. The yellow light shield around him became thinner and thinner under the bombardment of 3 top-grade spiritual weapons, as if it could break at any time, which made Huang Fugang start to panic. Damn it, who is this person? Why is he only at the first level of Jinden, but has such terrible strength? Huang Fugang couldn't help cursing in his heart. At this time, he couldn't help but feel a little regretful for coming here alone to take revenge. At the same time, he was also very puzzled about Wei Hong's identity. He didn't expect that his cultivation at the peak of the first level of Jinden was not as good as that of a cultivator at the first level of Jinden. In particular, all of Huang Fugang's methods and killing moves were calmly broken by Wei Hong, which made him feel very unacceptable. Huang Fugang felt that he was definitely not facing a cultivator at the first level of Jinden, but a cultivator at the third level of Jinden. Otherwise, how could he fall into such a situation? This was not within Huang Fugang's expectations. But the fact is that Huang Fugang can only think of a way to get out of it first. The outer layer of yellow shield is already shaky and obviously can't hold on for long. The most important thing is that Huang Fugang has used the desperate secret technique, and you can feel that the duration of the secret technique is rapidly decreasing, and it is estimated that it will soon become ineffective. If he can't escape from here while the secret technique is effective, perhaps this time he will really die here. This thought arose, and he could no longer suppress it. Huang Fugang gritted his teeth and took out a blood-red ball from the storage bag. This ball is about the size of a fist, and the surface is covered with various blood-colored runes, and there is even a golden talisman on it. Under the confinement of the golden talisman, the ball is still flashing with flickering blood-colored light. When this ball was taken out by Huang Fugang, Wei Hong immediately felt a bone-chilling chill rising from the bottom of his heart. Obviously, this ball is definitely something that can completely threaten his life. Holding the ball in his hand, Huang Fugang looked at Wei Hong fiercely. "Boy, I'll send you to heaven first." Without waiting for Wei Hong to respond, Huang Fugang stretched out his hand and completely peeled off the golden talisman on the ball. At the same time, he poured the magic power in his body into the ball. When the blood-red ball suddenly emitted a strong blood light, he immediately shot the ball towards Wei Hong. Wei Hong's heart pounded, obviously knowing that he must not take this ball head-on. He didn't care about anything else at this time. He first threw out more than 10 self-destructing talismans in one breath, and then immediately retreated, trying to avoid the ball. Who would have thought that before the more than 10 self-destructing talismans exploded, the blood-colored ball suddenly accelerated in midair, passed through the encirclement of the self-destructing talismans, and then came not far in front of Wei Hong. Not good. Wei Hong's expression changed slightly, and his heart was even more alarmed. He didn't expect that this blood-colored ball could change like this, which really caught him off guard. However, Wei Hong was not panicked, and in the face of such a critical situation, he still began to make hand gestures. Boom! Just when he was ready to cast the spell, the blood-colored sphere suddenly exploded like a volcanic eruption. The thick bloodlight turned into a terrifying shock wave that quickly swept around, and Wei Hong, who was not far away, was immediately enveloped. Puff! Exclamation mark. The thick bloodlight seemed to be very powerful. Wei Hong vomited blood as soon as he came into contact with it, and the whole person was completely enveloped by the bloodlight, and he couldn't get out. Seeing this scene, Huang Fugang's originally slightly nervous face suddenly became ecstatic. Haha, let's see if you die. Obviously, Huang Fugang had absolute confidence in his trump card. Under the cover of the extremely thick bloodlight, Wei Hong's figure seemed to be quickly corroded and melted, and then became a part of the bloodlight, which slowly calmed down. Haha, good, it's worth it that I spent decades collecting materials to refine a blood demon god exterminating pearl, haha. Seeing that Wei Hong seemed to have been completely devoured, Huang Fugang immediately laughed in ecstasy. Because only he knew how terrifying the power of this blood demon god exterminating pearl was. As long as it was covered by bloodlight, even a cultivator in the middle stage of the golden core could perish, not to mention Wei Hong, a cultivator in the early stage of the golden core. This was the result of Huang Fugang's research on refining instruments from an ancient refining book that he accidentally obtained. He spent decades collecting various rare materials and finally spent a lot of effort to refine one. This was also his last resort. If this blood demon god exterminating pearl had not killed Wei Hong, he might really have to run for his life. Fortunately, this blood demon god exterminating pearl did not disappoint Huang Fugang. In his ecstasy, he immediately wanted to go forward to check the situation. But at this time, a cold sneer suddenly sounded. Oh? Blood demon destroying god pearl? I have never heard of it. The power is indeed terrible. But isn't it too early for fellow Taoist Huang Fu to be happy? Swish. A figure suddenly appeared not far to the left of Huang Fugang. It was Wei Hong, who was originally shrouded in bloodlight. But I don't know why he escaped from the bloodlight and appeared here. After Huang Fugang heard this voice, he turned his head and saw Wei Hong's figure appearing safe and sound. His eyes almost popped out, and his laughter stopped abruptly, as if someone had strangled his throat. You are not dead. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. I clearly saw you covered by a bloodlight. How could you not be dead? Looking at Wei Hong's figure, Huang Fugang suddenly screamed in disbelief. He really couldn't believe that Wei Hong could escape. This scene had an unimaginable impact on him, and made Huang Fugang doubt himself. He didn't know that Wei Hong had not been able to dodge the attack of the Blood Demon's God-destroying pearl, but had just performed the Minoru substitute technique one step ahead, and had just used his vitality points to recover from all his injuries. At this moment, Huang Fugang's face was full of reluctance and panic. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 897, Killing Jinden. You'll know when you ask your children and grandchildren. Wei Hong sneered with a gloomy face. Then he didn't give Huang Fugang any chance to ask more questions, and directly sacrificed the Jinden sword. The Jinden sword swelled up in the wind and instantly turned into a giant sword, about 10 feet long. Split. Wei Hong pinched his hands and shouted coldly. As his magic power surged out, the Jinden sword suspended in the air immediately split into 3 identical green sword lights. And the aura emitted by the 3 green sword lights was several times stronger than that of the second-level Jinden sword, as if they were 3 giant swords of the magic weapon level, which made Huang Fugang's face change greatly. Cut. The next moment, Wei Hong shouted again. The Jinden sword and the 3 green sword lights immediately slashed down towards Huang Fugang, with a terrifying momentum. Not good. Huang Fugang's face changed wildly and he screamed loudly, and he immediately wanted to dodge. He could feel the extremely strong and fatal crisis from the 3 sword lights. If he resisted, he was not sure that he could block all 3 sword lights. But at this moment, he suddenly felt a strong sense of weakness in his body, and his own breath plummeted a lot. The mana in his dantian was only half left. This sudden change made Huang Fugang desperate. This was clearly a sign that the duration of the secret technique had ended. Damn it, why is it at this time? Huang Fugang roared in despair in his heart, and still wanted to make a final struggle. He took out all kinds of talismans and spiritual tools from his storage bag and sacrificed them all, trying to block the sharpness of the 3 sword lights. Then he pulled back and tried to avoid it. But those second-level talismans and spiritual tools were like thin paper in front of the 3 green sword lights, and they were directly crushed to pieces with a slight touch. Moreover, Wei Hong had already firmly locked onto Huang Fugang's aura. The speed of the Jinden sword and the 3 green sword lights was extremely fast, and Huang Fugang's aura dropped sharply at this time. Obviously, he was attacked by the secret technique, and his speed dropped by more than half. He could not avoid the pursuit of the sword light at all. The next moment, the Jinden sword and the 3 green sword lights caught up with Huang Fugang and slashed down directly. No. At this moment, the weak Huang Fugang turned around and looked, and instantly let out a desperate and shrill scream of unwillingness. Puff. The 3 sword lights instantly cut through the shaky yellow light cover, and also shattered all the defensive spiritual tools that Huang Fugang hurriedly took out. Puff. At the last moment, Wei Hong controlled the 3 green sword lights to slash down along the edge of Huang Fugang, but the Jinden sword quickly circled around Huang Fugang's neck, and a big head instantly flew into the air. The blood gushed out, and Huang Fugang's vitality and breath completely dissipated. At this point, Huang Fugang, the ancestor of the Huangfu family, a Jinden Xiuxin family, died. Wei Hong swept his consciousness and found that Huang Fugang was indeed dead, so he was relieved. As for the 3 blue sword lights, they had dissipated at this time. The 3 blue sword lights came from the sword shadow spectroscopy, one of the 3 major sword moves attached to the King Guang sword art. Sword shadow spectroscopy requires the realm of the early Jinden stage to practice, and Wei Hong also started to practice after breaking through to the Jinden stage. When he was in the secret realm, he didn't have any Jinden stage spells at hand. After thinking about it, only sword shadow spectroscopy was the most suitable for him to practice at that time, So he chose to practice without hesitation. Especially after hunting down the monsters in the entire secret realm, Wei Hong reluctantly invested more than 20,000 vitality points to upgrade the sword shadow spectroscopy to the Great Accomplishment realm, thereby greatly increasing its power. It can be said that now this sword shadow spectroscopy is the most powerful attack method in Wei Hong's hands. Of course, when his cultivation is enhanced, or when the sword shadow spectroscopy is raised to the limit, the power of this sword shadow spectroscopy will increase a lot. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and pointed, and the genital sword immediately turned into a sword light to catch Huang Fugang's falling body. At the same time, at the moment when Huang Fugang died, the red flying knife magic weapon also dimmed immediately and floated in the air motionlessly. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and grabbed the red flying knife and the spiritual tools and treasures he had released. The next moment, he landed in the valley again with Huang Fugang's body. Swish! Wei Hong took out the 10,000 souls banner without hesitation and shook it fiercely at the corpse on the ground. Buzz! The dark banner of the 10,000 souls banner fluttered, and twisted ghosts appeared on the banner. After Wei Hong shook the banner, a strong suction force emerged from the banner. The strong suction force directly enveloped Huang Fugang's body, trying to suck his soul out of his body. However, Huang Fugang's soul actually blocked the strong suction force at this time, and there was no sign of being sucked out of the body. Wei Hong smiled coldly and said, "Humph, the person is dead, and a mere soul wants to stop me." He immediately made a seal with both hands and poured his magic power into the 10,000 souls banner. Buzz! The suction force suddenly became several times stronger, and it sucked a soul that had already condensed into substance out of the body. After feeling his situation, Huang Fugang's soul immediately roared, "Don't even think about refining my soul." The soul of every giant and stage cultivator has changed from invisible to visible, which is definitely a huge improvement compared to the soul of the foundation building stage. Therefore, even if Huang Fugang is dead at this time, his soul can still be preserved, and he still has the memory of his life, which is even a terrifying existence for the cultivators of the key training stage. But in front of Wei Hong, such a soul was like a lamb to be slaughtered. "If I can kill you, I can refine your soul." Wei Hong sneered, and then he immediately shouted, "Hey!" A weakened version of the shocking spirit stab was instantly performed. Ah! Huang Fugang's soul immediately let out a shrill scream. Whoosh! The next moment, the 10,000 souls banner shook again, and the terrifying suction force surged out, instantly sucking the soul that was holding its head and screaming directly into it. After seeing Huang Fugang's soul being sucked into the 10,000 souls banner, Wei Hong sneered, "How, since it has entered my 10,000 souls banner, it is not up to you." After saying that, he took the 10,000 souls banner backhandedly. This is the soul of a giant and stage cultivator. Once it is thoroughly refined, he estimates that the 10,000 souls banner will definitely get a huge improvement, and it will definitely become a great help to him. Thinking of this, Wei Hong suddenly felt in a good mood. However, he did not stop at all. After collecting Huang Fugang's soul, he took back his storage bag and other things, and put his body into the body storage bag. After doing all this, Wei Hong immediately put away the formation outside the valley, and flew away without looking back. Chapter 898, Semi-Magical Weapon Level 10,000 Souls Banner. 3 hours later. After Wei Hong left the valley, he first flew north for more than 200 miles, then turned west and flew hundreds of miles, and then found a hidden cave as a temporary shelter. After setting up the formation, he walked into the cave. After a simple arrangement in the cave, he took out a golden silk cushion and sat down. Bang! Wei Hong waved his hand, and Huang Fugang's body appeared in front of him. In addition, Huang Fugang's storage bag and the red flying knife magic weapon were also taken out and placed in front of him. Huang Fugang had nothing else on his body except the storage bag. Looking at the items in front of him, Wei Hong thought about it, but temporarily put them aside without processing, and took out the 10,000 souls banner. Refine the soul of that old thing first. The soul of a giant and stage cultivator was a good thing that he had never dared to think of before. Once it is refined, the improvement of the 10,000 souls banner will definitely be very huge. Thinking of this, Wei Hong stretched out his hand and threw the 10,000 souls banner in front of him, and it floated up. Then he immediately made hand gestures and sent out a stream of magic power towards the 10,000 souls banner. As the magic power poured into the 10,000 souls banner, the 10,000 souls banner immediately grew to more than 3 feet high without wind. Wei Hong opened his mouth and spit out a stream of green Dan fire that directly wrapped up the entire 10,000 souls banner. After breaking through to the golden core stage, the original innate true fire became Dan fire. This is a kind of human fire that is more than 10 times more powerful than the innate true fire. It is a fire that can be bred in the golden core of every golden core stage cultivator. Whether it is used for alchemy or refining, the role of Dan fire is very huge. At this time, Wei Hong sacrificed his own Dan fire just to refine the golden core soul in the 10,000 souls banner. If it was just a soul in the foundation building period, it would not be so laborious, but the golden elixir soul had to be refined before it could be integrated into the 10,000 souls banner. Wei Hong had already planned to refine this golden elixir soul into the main soul in the 10,000 souls banner. This way, he could not only completely control this soul, but also increase the power of the 10,000 souls banner. Buzz! The blue elixir fire wrapped the entire 10,000 souls banner and began to slowly burn it. Such burning would not cause any damage to the 10,000 souls banner, but only to refine the souls in the banner. As the temperature of the elixir fire rose rapidly, a hideous face began to emerge on the surface of the dark banner. Judging from the appearance, it was Huang Fugang without a doubt. Obviously, under the burning of the elixir fire, Huang Fugang's soul was suffering unimaginable pain. The face that emerged was not only hideous, but also flashed with pain from time to time, and at this time, it even issued bursts of silent screams and roars. Wei Hong was unmoved, but continued to urge the elixir fire to refine it. The so-called refining is actually not complicated. It only requires erasing all the consciousness in Huang Fugang's soul, and then integrating the refined soul into the 10,000 souls banner. Burning with a Dan fire is to erase Huang Fugang's consciousness. As the Dan fire continued to burn, the ferocious face on the surface of the banner became more and more painful. A wisp of black smoke slowly floated from the banner and then dissipated in the air. Gradually, the face belonging to Huang Fugang's soul slowly stopped struggling, and the painful expression gradually weakened, and finally appeared very peaceful. Haha, it's done. Wei Hong opened his mouth and sucked the Dan fire back into his body, and then shot a stream of magic power on the banner. Whoosh! The soul whose consciousness had been completely wiped out re-entered the space of the 10,000 souls banner and disappeared. The next moment, the 10,000 souls banner actually changed from more than 3 feet high to more than 10 feet high. At the same time, the aura of the 10,000 souls banner was also rising steadily, and mysterious runes began to appear on the surface of the banner. As the mysterious runes appeared one after another, the flag of the 10,000 souls banner began to flutter quietly, and the aura it exuded seemed extremely cold, as if it would freeze people to death and penetrate directly into their souls. After a while, the aura of the 10,000 souls banner began to stabilize. The appearance did not change much, except that there were many more mysterious runes on the surface of the flag, but the aura was at least twice as strong as before. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and the 10,000 souls banner returned to his hand in the size of a palm. Then he immediately began to examine it carefully. After looking at it for a while, he nodded with satisfaction and smiled. Haha, not bad, not bad. With the nourishment of this golden elixir soul, the power of this 10,000 souls banner has really increased greatly. After that, he also drilled his consciousness into the 10,000 souls banner to check it out. After a moment, Wei Hong gently opened his eyes, then nodded secretly and said, yes, using the Jinden stage soul as the main soul is indeed a huge improvement for the magic weapons such as the 10,000 souls banner. It is worth my effort to kill Huang Fugang. In the internal space of the 10,000 souls banner, the Jinden stage soul has been completely refined into the main soul, and is responsible for commanding the other foundation building stage ghosts, so that the many ghosts that were originally leaderless suddenly have a backbone. Under the leadership of the main soul, the group of peak foundation building ghosts will definitely be able to exert more terrifying strength in the future. In this way, the power of the 10,000 souls banner naturally increased by a large margin. Wei Hong thought for a moment and made a judgment. Although it has not yet been upgraded to the level of the magic weapon, it is far from being able to compete with a second-level top-grade spiritual weapon. In this way, the current 10,000 souls banner should be considered a treasure of the half-magic weapon level. Under the nourishment of the Jinden soul, the 10,000 souls banner has obviously been promoted to a higher level, but it is still a little far from being a real magic weapon, so it can only be considered a half-magic weapon level treasure. Even if it is a half-magic weapon level, Wei Hong is already very satisfied. After all, this is only the first giant soul that has such a big improvement. When he kills a few more giant cultivators later, maybe this 10,000 souls banner can be promoted to a real magic weapon. Thinking of this, he immediately tossed the 10,000 souls banner in his hand, and then smiled to himself, find an opportunity to try its power again, it shouldn't disappoint me. Apart from anything else, the existence of this 10,000 souls banner alone is enough to shock all cultivators below the giant stage. As long as the main soul inside is sacrificed together with other ghosts, a peak foundation building cultivator can be directly devoured in an instant. Even more than 10 peak foundation building cultivators can be taken care of at the same time. This is the power of the 10,000 souls banner. However, Wei Hong still needs to test it carefully to know the specific effect. After playing with it for a while, he put the 10,000 souls banner away again. At this time, Wei Hong looked at the storage bag next to him with great expectation. This is the entire fortune of a giant stage cultivator. He was very curious about what surprises were waiting for him in this storage bag. However, Wei Hong temporarily suppressed his curiosity and instead looked at Huang Fugang's corpse. Chapter 899, Refining Corpse with Golden Elixir. This was the first time Wei Hong had seen a corpse of a giant cultivator. He brought back the severed head along with it, in order to preserve the integrity of the corpse. Based on the principle of not wasting anything, Wei Hong wanted to turn this corpse into a refined corpse. I wonder how much strength a giant cultivator can retain after being turned into a refined corpse. Wei Hong was somewhat curious about this, but he did not expect to be able to refine a golden corpse. According to the records of Zuanine corpse refining technique, the level corresponding to golden corpse is the giant stage. Although the body of a giant cultivator will be nourished by the golden elixir, thus gradually strengthening the body's strength, it is definitely not possible to refine a golden corpse with a corpse of a giant cultivator. More conditions are needed. Now Wei Hong only hopes that after turning this corpse into a refined corpse, he can get a silver corpse that is stronger than the peak of the foundation building stage. Thinking of this, he waved his hand and temporarily collected the corpse on the ground. Now is not the time to refine a silver corpse. Everything needs to wait until he is completely settled. At this moment, there were two items left in front of Wei Hong. One was the storage bag, and the other was the red flying knife magic weapon. Wei Hong first picked up the red flying knife, placed it flat in his hand and began to examine it carefully. After losing the control of the original owner, the red flying knife became 3 inches in size, and the style was not much different from ordinary flying knives, but the blade was shining with cold light, which seemed extremely sharp. This red flying knife magic weapon did not show any peculiarity at this time, and it was not much different from ordinary spiritual weapons. Wei Hong knew that this was because the magic weapon had been erased by him and the imprint between the original owner, and it had not been re-refined and nurtured, so it would not show its edge and did not look very special. The biggest difference between a magic weapon and a spiritual weapon is not the power, but the fact that the magic weapon can be stored in the danchin for nurturing. The magic weapon of each giant period cultivator is different, and the power is even more different. But there is one thing that all cultivators agree on, that is, the longer the magic weapon is nurtured, the more powerful it is, and this is beyond doubt. For example, if it is nurtured by Huang Fugang for 300 or 400 years, it will not be a problem to compete with a third-level medium-quality magic weapon, and it will definitely not be inferior in power. Therefore, the power of a magic weapon depends not only on the material and grade, but also on the length of time it is nurtured. This is why every giant stage cultivator will spend all his life to refine a magic weapon that suits him. If it is not suitable for his own use, the power of the magic weapon cannot be fully exerted. Just like this red flying knife, it had an owner before, but its original owner had died. Now that the brand has been erased, Wei Hong can indeed use it. As long as it is slightly refined, it can be used against the enemy. But in this way, he can only exert 50% of the power of this red flying knife at most. If he becomes proficient and nurtures it for a period of time, he may be able to exert 70%, but it is impossible to exert the full power of this flying knife. This is the disadvantage of the magic weapon recognizing its master. Just like those large sects, if they want to give a magic weapon to their disciples, they will generally refine it into an ownerless magic weapon. After it is determined who will be given it, the person will drip blood to recognize the master. 70% is fine. I don't have a magic weapon in my hand for the time being, so I'll use it first. Wei Hong shook his head and put away the flying knife magic weapon with a little regret. This red flying knife is not only a magic weapon with an owner, but also a magic weapon with fire attributes, which is completely incompatible with him. At most, he can only barely activate it. But he has no other magic weapon in his hand now, so he can only use it first. After putting away the flying knife magic weapon, Wei Hong directly picked up the silver storage bag. This storage bag also has an owner, and its grade is even higher than the one he used before. There is also a spiritual sense restriction at the mouth of the storage bag. If you don't have the Giant stage cultivation, you can't force open this storage bag. Hey, let's see how much wealth this so-called Huangfu family ancestor has. Wei Hong laughed, and his powerful spiritual sense rushed towards the mouth of the bag. Puff! An invisible wave flashed, and the spiritual sense restriction arranged at the mouth of the bag was directly torn apart by Wei Hong. The next moment, his spiritual sense penetrated into the storage bag without any hindrance. After a while, Wei Hong opened his eyes. He stretched out his hand and wiped the storage bag, and several items appeared on the ground in front of him. Among them were 4 materials, a jade slip and a small blue sword. It's not that there are only these things in this storage bag, but other than these things, the others are completely unattractive to Wei Hong. As expected of a storage bag used by a giant cultivator, the space is much larger. Wei Hong tossed the storage bag in his hand, and an expression of as expected appeared on his face. The storage space of this storage bag is at least 10 times larger than the one he used before, and there are quite a few things in it. However, except for some personal daily necessities, the rest are some second level and lower things, which are not worth much. There are quite a few spirit stones, including more than 500 high-grade spirit stones and more than 30,000 medium-grade spirit stones, which is a considerable amount when added up. This should be Huangfu Gang's own savings, not the wealth of the Huangfu family. If it is the wealth of the entire Huangfu family, it is definitely more than this amount. In addition to the spirit stones, the things he took out can be said to be the most valuable things in the entire storage bag. 4 of the materials are third-level low-grade ores and spirit woods, namely lapis lazuli, fire melting stone, gangain stone and flowing light wood. These 4 materials can all be used to refine magic weapons, but their properties are different. Wei Hong didn't look at it for long, and directly put all 4 materials into the storage bag. Then he picked up the jade slip and put it directly between his eyebrows to check it. After a moment, he opened his eyes again, and then frowned and murmured, Mingli Yanai Gong, a fire attribute technique. The jade slip in Wei Hong's hand recorded a fire attribute technique called Mingli Yanai Gong. This technique can be practiced to the middle stage of the golden core, but this technique is only at the level of the middle grade of the mysterious stage. For him, this is a completely useless technique, and the value is not high. It is neither suitable for his own practice nor can it be used as a reference. After flipping through it for a while, Wei Hong frowned and said, the Golden Core Patriarch of the Huangfu family only has this rubbish technique in his hands. Not to mention him, even if it was replaced by other Golden Core cultivators, it would be impossible for them to take a fancy to such an ordinary technique. Such a rubbish technique fell into Wei Hong's hands, it can be said that it is a pity to throw it away and tasteless to eat. Chapter 900, A Foothold. He's a giant ancestor, but he only has this little wealth. Wei Hong shook his head and sneered secretly, with a look of dissatisfaction on his face. In addition to the 4 materials and a rubbish technique, the remaining blue flying sword is a third-level low-grade magic weapon. This is a water-attributed flying sword magic weapon, and it originally had an owner, but later it should have been erased by Huangfu Gang, and for some reason it was not used against Wei Hong in the previous fight. The appearance of such a flying sword magic weapon is actually better than nothing, and it did not bring much surprise to Wei Hong. Instead, he felt that this harvest was extremely disappointing. As the giant ancestor of the Huangfu family, Huangfu Gang's wealth is pitiful. It can be said that he has no techniques, no secret techniques, and even no talismans, elixirs, materials, etc. How can this satisfy Wei Hong? It shouldn't be. How could a giant cultivator have only this little wealth? Could it be that most of it was left in the family and not brought out? Wei Hong was very puzzled, but he had to accept the reality. He was expecting to get some surprises from Huangfu Gang, but he only got a few items, and those items were not very valuable, which made Wei Hong very dissatisfied. Compared with these external objects, he was more pleased that the treasure of the 10,000 souls banner was promoted to the semi-magic weapon level. Forget it, don't think too much about the harvest. It's not easy to kill a big enemy. Now let's think about where to go next. Wei Hong sighed and suppressed his dissatisfaction. Then he began to ponder in his heart, trying to find a suitable place for himself. Now, I have achieved the golden core, and I can settle down even if I go to any place in the world of immortal cultivation. There is no need to worry about this. But I don't know much about the areas outside Kangshan Immortal City, so it's really hard to decide for a while. But after I break through to the golden core stage, if I want to make my cultivation level go further, I must have a lot of resources. If I continue to be a casual cultivator, it will be absolutely difficult to develop. Wei Hong's thoughts turned rapidly in his mind, and he began to consider various situations. He thought about it for a long time and found that he could not develop like a casual cultivator, otherwise it would be difficult to improve his cultivation, so he had to join a faction or create his own faction. So he thought about it and came up with 3 options. First, learn from Huangfu Gang, create a family and dominate the area. However, if he made this choice, he must first find an area suitable for the family to grow and develop, and then occupy it. Only in this way can the family have a foothold, otherwise it would be a joke to want to develop the family. No, first of all, I don't have the energy to develop a family. I myself feel that I don't have enough time to practice, so how can I have time to create a family? Secondly, even if the Wei family is created, it will take at least hundreds of years to develop, and the various resources required to develop a family are more. It is better to use them all on myself. Finally, it is the foothold of the family. This world of cultivation is extremely vast, but there are definitely not many places suitable for a family to develop. Almost all of them have been taken up by others. If I want to create a family, I must make enemies with others, which is not what I want. After thinking for a moment, Wei Hong decisively gave up the first option. Second, join a famous sect in the world of cultivation, or become a disciple or learn from others. This is a good option, but it may not be suitable for me. First, those big sects attach great importance to origins, and they are definitely wary of giant and cultivators like me with unknown origins. Second, with my current strength, I can only find a Yuanying's Henrin if I want to become a disciple, but each of the Yuanying's Henrin in those big sects is elusive. Not only is it difficult to meet them, but even if I really meet them, they may not take me seriously. In this case, even if I really have the possibility of becoming a disciple in a sect, they may not accept me sincerely. This is a hidden danger and is not conducive to my future development. Wei Hong was actually a little hesitant about this second option. He did not give up the second option directly, but kept the option. The last option was to stay in Kangshan Xiancheng. Staying in Kangshan Immortal City seems to be a good choice. First, I am most familiar with this place. Kangshan Immortal City is not as hierarchical as other large sects. It is much more relaxed and free, and there are not so many constraints. Second, Kangshan Immortal City is one of the largest cities in the world of immortal cultivation. There are all kinds of unimaginable resources here, not only the secret techniques of the Jinden period, but also materials, talismans, pills, formations and magic weapons, etc. As long as there are enough spirit stones, many things can be bought directly, and there are also various resources inside Kangshan Immortal City. Once you join it, you can exchange them by yourself. Third, Kangshan Immortal City has just been weakened, and there are only a few Jinden period cultivators left. This is absolutely insufficient for a large force. If I join at this time, it will be a timely help, and I will definitely be sincerely accepted by Kangshan Immortal City. Finally, Kangshan Immortal City is now being coveted by major forces. A Jinden cultivator like me who can take the initiative to surrender to them, they will definitely not refuse, and will even give higher treatment. Wei Hong became more and more excited as he thought about it, and he had begun to lean towards the last choice. The reason why he wanted to stay in Kangshan Immortal City was not only because it was the most familiar place, but also because of the special nature of Kangshan Immortal City. It was founded by Kangshan's Henrin, a giant of independent cultivation, and was completely different from those large sects. Moreover, Kangshan Immortal City was short of manpower at the moment, and he could take the initiative to go there, and he would definitely be warmly welcomed and sincerely accepted. Wei Hong had no doubt about this. Moreover, although Kangshan Immortal City was now somewhat weakened, as long as Kangshan's Henrin was not dead, the status of Kangshan Immortal City would not be shaken, and those sects would never dare to act rashly. In this way, He stayed in Kangshan Immortal City just to lie dormant and develop with a trend. The only concern was his current identity. If I show up with my real identity, won't it reveal a lot of things? Although not many people know me, if Bidang Mo and Dingzu are still alive, they will definitely guess a lot of things after seeing me. It seems that if I want to stay in Kangshan Immortal City, I can't use my real identity. Do I have to change my identity? Wei Hong frowned slightly, but couldn't make a decision immediately. He fell into thought again, and the cave became quiet. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.